You can't even do simple housework anymore. You're useless to us. I agree. Let's fire this housekeeper already. Finally, I can get rid of this old hag. These cruel words come from my husband, mother-in-law, and daughter. I'm sitting in a wheelchair while they stand in front of me, smirking, waiting for me to react. If you're going to treat me like this, I won't hold back anymore. You'll regret it, I say firmly. My name is Anna Taylor, and I'm 30 years old. I work as a freelance writer from home and also take care of the household. I got married 2 years ago and now live with my husband Jared, his teenage daughter Maya, and my mother-in-law. Jared is 5 years older than me. We met 3 years ago through a dating app and hit it off quickly since we both love movies. 6 months after we started dating, he proposed, and we got married soon after. However, there was one big challenge in our marriage, Maya. She's Jared's daughter from his previous marriage. When we got married, she was 10 years old, now a teenager. She doesn't accept me and seems to hate me. At first, she ignored me whenever I tried to talk to her. Now, she openly mocks me. For example, one day, she came home from after-school activities and threw her gym clothes at me. I need these tomorrow, so wash them, she demanded. Confused, I said, don't you have another set? These won't dry in time even if I wash them now. But she yelled, shut up and do it. If it's not ready tomorrow morning, I'll tell Dad and Grandma. Good luck. Then, she stormed off to her room. I ended up taking her clothes to the laundromat that evening. As I stood there waiting for them to dry, I felt a deep sense of sadness. I knew blending into this family would be hard, but I never imagined it would hurt this much. Maya, will you ever treat me normally? Even if I can't be your mother, I just want us to have a regular conversation, I thought to myself. Still, I tried to stay positive, hoping things would eventually improve. But Maya isn't my only problem. My mother-in-law dislikes me just as much. She's been cold toward me since the beginning of my marriage. When I returned home from the laundromat that night, she was waiting at the door. Where have you been? Why isn't dinner ready? She scolded. I'm sorry, the side dish is ready. I'll prepare the rest now, I replied. Don't make excuses. Were you out wasting time? She snapped. No, I had to take Maya's gym clothes to the laundromat, I explained. Oh, so now you're blaming Maya? You really love shifting the blame, don't you? I tried to defend myself, but she dismissed me. Just get dinner ready, Jared will be home soon, and Maya must be hungry. Yes, ma'am, I said quietly and went to the kitchen. This kind of treatment is common. My mother-in-law blames me for everything, no matter how small. It used to make me cry when I was newly married, but I've learned to tolerate it. Still, the emotional scars remain. What hurt me the most was being compared to my husband's ex-wife. Her name was Michelle, and my mother-in-law often compared me to her, saying things like, Michelle could have done this better. Michelle's cooking was delicious. She was a kind and caring wife. I wish Michelle would come back. According to Jared, Michelle cheated on him, which led to their divorce. I know my mother-in-law loves Jared deeply, so I don't understand why she keeps praising the woman who caused the divorce. If someone hurt my beloved child, I would probably dislike them, but I can't focus on that right now. I need to figure out how to get along with my mother-in-law and Maya. How can I live in this house and handle these relationships every day? It's hard, and it feels like a lot of pressure, but I'm determined to do my best for my husband, whom I love. I didn't complain to Jared about his mother or Maya. Instead, I asked him for advice on how we could get along better. One evening, I sat down with him and said, Jared, are you listening? Your mom and Maya scolded me again today. He barely looked up from his phone and replied, I'm listening. I keep telling you not to worry about them. I know, but we're living together now. We need to figure out how to get along. You should think about that too, I said, trying to make him understand. Still not looking away from his phone, he replied lazily. That's when I asked him seriously, please, I need your advice on this. I get it, they don't like me, but your mom keeps comparing me to Michelle. You know Michelle, right? She says Michelle was a better wife than me. She's always saying that. You need to understand how it feels from my side. I really want to have a good relationship with her. Jared replied, well, it'll work out eventually. Time will sort it out. That's not helpful. That's nonsense. I'm being serious here. He said, just try to get along with my mom and Maya, put in the effort, and it will work out. Jared patted my shoulder and said, good night, then pulled the covers over himself. I wasn't sure if he was actually asleep or just pretending. No matter how much I called his name, He didn't respond. The next morning, while I was making breakfast, Maya came down from her room. I handed her the gym clothes she had asked for. Here you go, Maya. These are the gym clothes you wanted from yesterday. Are you listening to me? I asked. Maya took the clothes and said, these are from yesterday. Shut up. I hear you. I'm ignoring you on purpose. Don't you get it? Ignore me? Couldn't you at least talk to me? What, you want me to say thank you or something? Maya sighed and grabbed the clothes from my hands. You're so annoying. You act like you're my mom. You shouldn't have married Dad. That's too much, Maya. Ugh, you're so irritating. You always make me so mad in the morning. I can't stand it. She didn't touch the breakfast I made but ate the bread my mother-in-law had bought. Then she made her grandmother go out to buy more food before leaving for school. I went to see her off, but she didn't even acknowledge me. I thought about eating the leftover breakfast, but when I got to the living room, I saw the dishes I had made were gone. Where are my dishes? I asked in confusion. Behind me, I heard a small laugh. It was my mother-in-law, smiling. Did you do this? Yes, it looked so bad, and Maya didn't want it, so I threw it away. Why would you do that? Terrible? You're the one who can only cook such bad food. It's your fault. No matter how much I tried to defend myself, my mother-in-law kept insulting me, attacking me without stopping. Later, she followed me to the grocery store, and a few hours after that, I had the worst experience of my life. On my way home from shopping, I got into an accident. I was rushed to the hospital by ambulance, and the doctors told me that my right leg was paralyzed. I would need a wheelchair for a while. Though my life wasn't at risk, I was hospitalized for a few days. The hospital must have contacted my family, because soon after, Jared, my mother-in-law, and Maya came to visit. I was in a wheelchair, and they stood in front of me. Did they come because they were worried? I was happy to see them and said, thank you all so much for coming. Will your leg heal? Jared asked, looking concerned. I smiled, though my heart wasn't in it. The doctor said it might get a little better, but I'll probably never walk without help again. I see. Well, I guess there's nothing we can do, Jared said, his tone changing. What do you mean? Thank you for everything, Anna. Thank you? Jared looked at me with a strange smile, and I felt confused, unsure of what he meant. He went on, it was short, but I'm glad I married you. You did all the housework and took care of everything without complaining. You also gave us a lot of money to live on. What are you talking about? The atmosphere in the room had shifted. They were all smiling, but there was something unsettling about it. I could see it in their faces. As I sat in my wheelchair, feeling small in front of my husband, mother-in-law, and daughter, they each spoke in turn. You can't even do housework anymore. You're useless to us now, my husband said coldly. I agree. It's time to fire this housekeeper, my mother-in-law added. Finally, I can say goodbye to this old hag, Maya shouted, with no care in the world. The words hit me like a ton of bricks, and I froze in shock. My legs shook with fear. Looking down at me, my husband gave his final blow. I married you to take care of the house. Now that you're in a wheelchair, you're no longer of any use to me. I couldn't believe it. Does this mean divorce? Thanks for taking care of everything. As soon as you leave the hospital, pack up your things and leave our house, he said. He pulled out the divorce papers, already filled out with his part, and slapped them down in front of me. Without waiting for a response, they turned and walked out of the room. The door closed behind them, and I could still hear their footsteps and laughter fading away. That was the moment I knew for sure. He never truly liked me. He married me to take care of his daughter, and that was all. I would never forgive any of them. I signed the divorce papers immediately and called my mother to explain everything. I asked her to take the papers to the city office for me. A few days later, after being discharged from the hospital, I left for my parents' house. I asked my parents to tell my in-laws that I had filed for divorce and to pack up my things. I went straight to my parents' house, telling myself I'd never see them again. I felt a bit relieved and decided to start a new life. 5 years later, I saw a familiar name, Jared, on my phone. I had forgotten to block his number. I didn't answer the call and deleted his contact from my phone. The next day, my former family showed up at my parents' house. When they saw me, they all dropped to their knees. Confused, I wondered what was going on. Then Jared suddenly looked up and started speaking. Please help us. What? What do you mean? Why are you asking me now? Anna, you're the only one I can rely on. What's going on? I need you to lend us some money, we can't survive without it. To summarize, Jared explained that for a while after I left, they had been living comfortably, but when Maya started private high school, things got tight financially. The problem was Maya had been stealing money from the house to buy whatever she wanted. On top of that, Jared's mother was using him to pay for her beauty treatments and luxury items. When their savings ran out, they started borrowing money but couldn't pay it back, so no one would lend them more. Now, the biggest issue was Maya's tuition. Her grades were so bad, she was close to being expelled, and they had to pay extra to keep her in school. Jared lowered his head to the ground, tears in his eyes, as he finished explaining. Please, you must have made a lot of money by now. I'm begging you, even just a little, please lend us some. His mother and Maya were also bowing, begging. I was disgusted. 5 years ago, they kicked me out after treating me horribly. Now they came back to me when they needed money. I could tell they were still just using me. I was so angry that, without thinking, I turned on the full set of the front door and sprayed them with water. What the hell are you doing? All three of them screamed at me again. Hey, what are you doing? It's freezing. Don't get carried away, you old hag. We're begging you for help. This is not how you ask for help. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I said what I had been feeling all along. Rely on me? I never asked you to rely on me. You used me when it was convenient. And now you want me to help you because you're in trouble? That's rich. How much more are you going to mock me? What? How dare you talk to me like that? We're in serious trouble. I don't care. I don't care if you're starving or what happens to you. Honestly, I'm glad you're struggling. You deserve this. I will never help you. Just deal with your mess yourselves. After that, I slammed the door hard. I locked it and cut them off completely. They stayed outside for a while, yelling and complaining. A neighbor, unable to stand it any longer, called the police. They were taken away for causing a disturbance. The news spread around the neighborhood, and eventually, it reached Jared's workplace. Embarrassed by the gossip, he ended up resigning. Since they couldn't pay Maya's school fees, she was forced to drop out. Now, the three of them are all working to pay off their debts. They still seem to cooperate, but whenever they get together, they blame each other for their problems. Their family bond is falling apart. From my perspective, that's exactly what they deserve. As for me, I'm still working from home, supported by my parents. My leg has improved, and I'm going through rehab to make a full recovery. I'm so grateful to my parents for taking me in after my divorce. From now on, I'm going to live my life to the fullest, for my parents and for myself.
The phone vibrated against my desk for the third time in 5 minutes. Mom. Again. I let it buzz, watching it dance across my paperwork like a demented firefly while my stomach twisted into familiar knots. When it finally stopped, I counted to 10 before checking the voicemail. Yasmin, darling, why aren't you picking up? It's urgent. Call me back immediately. I'm Yasmin, and at 35, I've become my family's personal bank. Not by choice, mind you, but through years of guilt-tripping, manipulation, and the crushing weight of obligation that comes with being the successful daughter. The phone buzzed again. This time I answered. Finally! Mom's voice crackled through the speaker. I've been trying to reach you all morning. I was in a meeting, Mom. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong exactly. We just need a small favor. Her tone shifted to that syrupy sweet register that always preceded a financial request. The mortgage payment is due next week, and your father's hours got cut again. I pressed my fingers against my temples. Mom, I just paid your mortgage 3 months ago. You promised that was the last time. But darling, we're family. Family helps each other. Besides, you're doing so well with your business. What's a few $1,000s to you? A few $1,000s. Just like the few thousand last month for Savannah's car repairs. And the few thousand before that for Dad's medical bills. And the countless other few thousands that had drained my savings account over the years. I can't keep doing this, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. What was that? I said I can't. Oh, before I forget, she interrupted, Savannah needs new furniture for her apartment. Nothing fancy, just a living room set. I told her you'd help. The pen I'd been holding snapped in my hand, blue ink spreading across my fingers like a bruise. You told her what? Well, she saw that lovely leather sofa in your office, and I mentioned you'd probably be happy to help her get something similar. She's your sister, after all. I stared at the sofa in question, a piece I'd saved for months to buy, a symbol of my hard work. Now my mother wanted to turn it into yet another obligation. No. The word escaped before I could stop it. Excuse me? I said, no, Mom. I can't keep doing this. I'm not an ATM. Silence crackled over the line. When she spoke again, her voice had that dangerous edge I remembered from childhood. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By being selfish? Selfish? I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. I've given you over $50,000 in the past year alone. I've postponed buying a house, delayed starting a family, put my entire life on hold to support everyone else's needs. How is that selfish? We're your family, she was shouting now. Family takes care of each other. When has anyone taken care of me? The words hung in the air, heavy with years of unspoken resentment. When's the last time anyone asked how I was doing? If I needed help? If I was happy? Oh, so now you're not happy? With your fancy office and your expensive furniture? Some people would be grateful for such success. Grateful? I stood up, pacing my office. I built this business from nothing. While you and Dad were giving Savannah money for her third attempt at college, I was working 2 jobs and living on ramen noodles to make this happen. And now you act like my success is somehow yours to distribute? How dare you? No, Mom, how dare you? I'm done. No more money, no more guilt trips, no more treating me like a walking checkbook. You'll regret this, she hissed. When your father and I are out on the street, when your sister can't pay her bills, you'll regret being so heartless. I looked at my ink-stained hands, at the broken pen on my desk, at all the symbols of success that had become chains around my neck. The only thing I regret is not saying no sooner. The line went dead. My phone immediately lit up with text messages from Savannah. How could you do this to Mom? You're so selfish. I thought I could count on you. I blocked both their numbers, my hands shaking, but my mind clearer than it had been in years. Then I called my best friend, Raylan. Hey, I said when she answered. Remember how you said I needed to set boundaries? I think I just blew up all of them at once. Her warm laugh filled the line. Girl, it's about time. Want to grab coffee and talk about it? For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Yes, I really do. You should have seen her face when I finally said no, I said, stirring my latte while Raylan listened intently across the table. It was like I'd committed some cardinal sin. The sin of standing up for yourself? Raylan snorted. How dare you? The cafe buzzed with afternoon activity, but in our corner booth, I felt safe enough to let my guard down. Raylan had been my rock since law school, where we'd bonded over instant noodles and impossible deadlines. They're blowing up my email now, I said, showing her my phone. Mom sent 5 messages about how I'm destroying the family, and Savannah's threatening to tell everyone what a horrible sister I am. Let them. Raylan leaned forward, her attorney face on. You know what this is? This is extinction burst behavior. When people lose their source of benefits, they escalate dramatically before giving up. My phone pinged again. This time it was my father. Yasmin, please call your mother. She's very upset. We really need your help this month. Raylan watched as my hands started shaking. Give me that, she said, snatching the phone. We're setting up boundaries right now. What are you doing? Writing an email. Listen to this. Dear Mom and Dad, I love you, but I will no longer be providing financial support. My previous assistance was given freely, but it has become unhealthy for all of us. I'm happy to maintain a relationship based on mutual respect and love, but money is off the table. Love, Yasmin. I can't send that, I protested weakly. Watch me. She hit send before I could stop her. There, now let's work on your sister. The cafe door chimed, and I froze. Savannah stormed in, her face red with anger. Of course she'd know where to find me. I'd mentioned this cafe in our family group chat last week. How could you? She demanded, drawing stares from nearby tables. Mom's crying her eyes out. I started to shrink into my seat, but Raylan's foot nudged mine under the table. Stand tall, her eyes said. Savannah, I said, keeping my voice steady. This isn't the place. No, this is exactly the place. You sit here in your designer clothes, drinking your fancy coffee while our parents struggle? What kind of daughter are you? Raylan started to stand, but I touched her arm. I've got this. I faced my sister, channeling the confidence I used in business meetings. I'm the kind of daughter who's tired of being taken advantage of. The kind who's given everything she could until there was nothing left. The kind who's finally learning to say no. But the furniture? Buy your own furniture, Savannah. Get a job, take out a loan, do whatever adults do when they need money. I did it. You can too. Her face crumpled. But I can't. My credit's shot and no one's hiring in my field. That's not my problem anymore. The words felt foreign in my mouth, but right. I love you, but I'm not responsible for your life choices. Fine, she spat. But don't come crying to us when you're all alone with nothing but your money to keep you company. As she stormed out, an elderly woman at the next table caught my eye. Good for you, dear, she said softly. I wish I'd had your courage with my own family years ago. My phone buzzed again. Mom. This time the message was different. How dare you send such a cold email? After all we've sacrificed for you. Your father and I went without so many times to give you opportunities, and this is how you repay us? By abandoning us when we need you most? You're no daughter of mine. Raylan read over my shoulder and whistled low. Wow, she went nuclear fast. They did make sacrifices for me, I admitted, guilt creeping in. Maybe I should stop right there. Raylan grabbed my hands. Yes, they made sacrifices. That's what parents are supposed to do. But you've more than repaid any debt, and now they're using those past sacrifices as weapons. It's emotional blackmail, pure and simple. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal. Setting boundaries is hard. But you know what's harder? Living the rest of your life as everyone's personal ATM. My phone lit up with another message, this time from Dad. Your mother's blood pressure is through the roof. If anything happens to her, it'll be your fault. Something inside me hardened. You're right, I told Raylan, turning off my phone. I'm done being manipulated. They want to play hardball? Fine. Let's see how they manage without their cash cow. That's my girl. Raylan raised her coffee cup. To boundaries and backbone. I clinked my cup against hers, ignoring the trembling in my hands. To freedom. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of the storm. Your numbers are impressive, Yasmin, but you're playing it too safe. Glenn leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen against my business proposal. You've got the potential to be a major player in this market, not just another boutique consulting firm. I'd sought out Glenn's mentorship after realizing how much my family drama had held me back professionally. As one of the city's most respected business consultants, his advice was worth its weight in gold. What do you suggest? I asked, trying to ignore another call from an unknown number. Probably my mother using someone else's phone again. Expansion, strategic partnerships. You've built a solid foundation, but it's time to build the empire. He slid a business card across the desk. Start by meeting with Piper Hopkins. She's looking for partners in the tech sector. I nearly choked on my water. Piper Hopkins? She's my biggest competitor. Exactly. And she's either going to be your greatest ally or your worst nightmare. Choose which you prefer. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Savannah stormed in, mascara streaking her cheeks. They're foreclosing on the house, she sobbed. Mom and Dad are going to be homeless and it's all your fault. Glenn raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I took a deep breath, remembering Raylan's advice about maintaining boundaries. This is a private business meeting, Savannah. You need to leave. No, not until you fix this. You have the money. We all know you do. I stood up, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Security, please escort my sister out. You heartless bitch. She lunged forward, but the security guard caught her arm. You'll regret this. Mom was right. Money has changed you. After she was gone, Glenn whistled low. Family business? Something like that. I straightened my jacket, trying to regain my composure. I'm sorry you had to see that. Don't be. I've seen worse. But this is exactly why you need to think bigger. He tapped the business card. Call Piper, today. 2 hours later, I sat across from Piper Hopkins in her sleek downtown office. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 40s, with a sharp gaze that seemed to cut right through me. Glenn speaks highly of you, she said, not bothering with small talk. Says you've got untapped potential. I'm not convinced. Excuse me? Your firm is successful, sure, but you're playing small, safe, like someone who's afraid to take real risks. She pulled up my company's financials on her tablet, or someone who's been dumping their profits into a black hole. My face burned. My financial decisions are none of your business. They are if we're going to be partners. She leaned forward. Let me be clear. I don't care about your family drama. I care about business. And right now, you're letting personal issues hold you back from something extraordinary. You don't know anything about me. I know you've been supporting your entire family for years. I know you've turned down major opportunities because you couldn't commit the capital. And I know you're finally ready to change all that. She smiled. Am I wrong? I stared at her, speechless. Here's my offer, she continued. We merge our consulting divisions. You head the combined operation. We expand into 3 new markets within 18 months. No more playing safe. No more holding back. And if I say no, then I'll acquire your biggest clients one by one until your firm is nothing but a footnote in my company's history. She shrugged. Your choice. My phone buzzed again. Another email from Mom, probably with more guilt and accusations. Without looking at it, I deleted it. When do we start? I asked. Piper's smile widened. Now that's more like it. She pulled out a contract. But first, let's talk numbers. The figures she proposed made my head spin. This wasn't just an opportunity. It was a chance to build something massive, something that would put me so far beyond my family's financial demands that they'd never be able to touch me again. One condition, I said, surprising myself with my boldness. I want complete autonomy over my division. No interference, no matter what personal drama might surface. Piper laughed. Deal. Welcome to the big leagues, Yasmin. As I signed the contract, my phone lit up with a text from Dad. Your mother's in the hospital. Stress-induced panic attack. Hope you're happy with yourself. I turned the phone face down without responding. For the first time in my life, I was choosing my future over their manipulation. Ready to shake things up? Piper asked, extending her hand. I took it firmly. More than ready. The game was changing, and this time, I was playing to win. The merger announcement made headlines in the local business press. I was reviewing the coverage when my office door slammed open, making me jump. So this is why you abandoned us? Mom stood in the doorway, brandishing a newspaper. You were too busy making deals with our competitors? I pressed the security button under my desk. How did you get past reception? I told them I was your mother, which I am, though you seem to have forgotten that. She threw the newspaper on my desk. Millions in new funding, and you can't spare a dime for your own family? Ma'am, my security guard appeared at the door. You need to leave. Don't you dare! Mom's voice rose to a shriek. I carried you for 9 months. I sacrificed everything for you, and now you're having me thrown out like garbage? Mrs. Owens, the guard stepped forward, please don't make this difficult. You're killing me, Yasmin. She clutched her chest dramatically. The stress? The shame? Do you want me to die? Is that what you want? I kept my voice steady. What I want is for you to leave. Now. As security escorted her out, her wails echoed down the hallway. My own daughter. My flesh and blood. I was still shaking when Piper walked in minutes later. Interesting show in the lobby, she said dryly. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. Just handle it. We can't have family drama disrupting business. After she left, my phone rang. Savannah. Before you start, I said, answering. I'm not discussing. Mom's in the emergency room again, she cut in. Real this time, not just dramatics. Dad's with her. They're running tests. My stomach dropped. What kind of tests? Cardiac. The doctor says stress is literally killing her. Are you happy now? That's not fair. You know what's not fair? I lost my job last week. The startup I was working for went under. I can't make rent. Mom and Dad are losing their house, and you're out there making millions with some fancy merger. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Your financial problems are not my responsibility. No? Then whose are they? Mom and Dad spent their retirement fund putting me through college. They remortgaged their house to help you start your business. That was their choice. And now you're choosing to let them suffer. She was crying now. Mom might be dying, and you're sitting in your fancy office pretending we don't exist. I'm not pretending anything. I'm setting boundaries. Boundaries? She laughed bitterly. Is that what your rich friends call abandoning family? What happened to you, Yasmin? You used to care about someone besides yourself. The words stung more than I wanted to admit. I still care, but I can't keep enabling. Save it for your therapist. Just know that if anything happens to Mom, it's on you. The line went dead. I sat there, staring at my phone, until Raylan's call jolted me back to reality. Your sister's posting about you on Facebook, she said without preamble. It's getting ugly. I pulled up the post on my computer. There it was, complete with old family photos. My sister made millions today while our mother lies in the hospital. Money truly changes people. Remember this post when she tries to pretend she's self-made. She built her success on our family's sacrifices and then abandoned us when we needed her most. The comments were worse. Old family friends expressing shock and disappointment. Relatives I hadn't seen in years calling me heartless. Even some business contacts weighing in with concerned messages. It's a manipulation tactic, Raylan said firmly. They're trying to shame you into compliance. But what if they're right? What if I am being selfish? Stop. Remember why you started this. Remember the panic attacks, the sleepless nights, the constant anxiety about their next financial emergency? You're not being selfish. You're being healthy. My office door opened again. This time it was Dad, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Raylan, I'll call you back, I said, hanging up. He stood there, hands in his pockets, shoulders slumped. Your mother's asking for you. Dad. I know. You're done with the financial support, but she's still your mother, Yasmin, and she's scared. I looked at the family photo on my desk, taken years ago, before money became the only language we spoke to each other in. I can't go back to how things were. Nobody's asking you to. He sighed heavily. But is this really how you want things to end? With security guards and Facebook posts and hospital visits? The question hung in the air between us, heavy with decades of complicated family history. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a message from Piper. Meeting with major investors tomorrow. Family drama better be resolved by then. I looked at my father's tired face, at the newspaper announcing my success, at the angry Facebook posts. Something had to give. But what? Your mother's spreading rumors that you embezzled money from the family? Raylan said, pacing my office. 3 clients called me asking if it's true. I looked up from the investor presentation I was reviewing. She's what? Check your email. Someone forwarded me a message she sent to your entire extended family. It's creative. The email made my blood run cold. Mom had crafted an elaborate story about how I'd supposedly stolen Dad's inheritance money to start my business, complete with fake details about promised repayments and broken agreements. This is insane, I muttered. There was never any inheritance. Dad's parents died broke. She's desperate, Raylan said, and desperate people tell desperate lies. My phone lit up with Piper's name. Speaking of desperate, I answered the call. Hey, Piper. Care to explain why I'm getting calls about financial fraud? Her voice was arctic. This merger is hanging by a thread, Yasmin. It's not true. My mother. I don't care who's behind it. Fix it. Today. She hung up. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of my office window, watching the city bustle below. What am I supposed to do? Sue my own mother for defamation? If necessary, Raylan said. But first, we need to get ahead of this story. A knock at my door interrupted us. Glenn entered, looking grim. I assume you've seen the emails, he said. About the fictional inheritance theft? Yeah, I'm handling it. No, about your sister's GoFundMe page. My stomach dropped. Her what? He pulled up the page on his tablet. There it was. Help save our family home. My millionaire sister won't. Complete with childhood photos and a detailed account of how I'd abandoned our parents in their time of need. It's gone viral in the local business community, Glenn said. People are starting to ask questions about your character. This is ridiculous. I stood up, anger finally overtaking shock. They're trying to destroy everything I've built because I won't be their personal bank anymore? Actually, Raylan said slowly, this might be exactly what we need. What do you mean? You've been trying to handle this privately, and they're using that silence to control the narrative. Maybe it's time to tell your side of the story. Glenn nodded. She's right. The investor meeting tomorrow, turn it into a press conference. Announce your new charitable foundation. My what? Your foundation. The one you're going to create to help families develop financial literacy and independence. Show the world you're not against helping family. You're against enabling destructive patterns. I stared at them both. That's actually brilliant. It gets better, Raylan added. We invite your family to the announcement. Let them try their dramatics in front of the press. See how that plays out. My phone buzzed with another message from Savannah. The GoFundMe's at $15,000. People deserve to know what kind of person you really are. Something hardened in my chest. Do it. Set up the press conference and make sure every local news outlet gets an invitation. The next 24 hours were a blur of preparation. By morning, the foundation paperwork was filed, the press release was drafted, and the conference room was ready. I stood at the podium, watching as reporters filed in, and then I saw them, Mom, Dad, and Savannah, slipping into the back row. Mom had clearly dressed for sympathy, wearing her church clothes and clutching a handkerchief. Ready? Piper appeared at my elbow. Born ready. I stepped up to the microphone, my voice steady. Thank you all for coming. Today, I'm announcing the creation of the Financial Freedom Foundation, dedicated to breaking the cycles of family financial dependence that trap so many in patterns of enabling and abuse. Mom's face went pale. This cause is deeply personal to me, I continued. For years, I watched my own success become a weapon used against me by those closest to me. I've been emotionally blackmailed, publicly slandered, and accused of theft, all for setting healthy boundaries. Reporters' heads swiveled toward my family. But this isn't about revenge. It's about breaking cycles. The foundation will provide education, counseling, and support for families struggling with financial codependence. Because sometimes the most loving thing we can do is say no. Savannah stood up, but Dad pulled her back down. Questions? I asked. A reporter raised his hand. Is it true your family started a GoFundMe claiming you abandoned them? I smiled. Why don't you ask them? They're sitting right there. All cameras turned to my family. Mom's face crumpled as reporters swarmed toward them. Well played, Piper whispered. The investors are impressed. I watched as my family fled the room, pursued by journalists. This isn't about impressing investors anymore. This is about taking back my story. And for the first time since this all began, I felt truly powerful. The press conference video has over 1 million views, Raylan announced, setting her laptop on my desk. And the comments? People are sharing their own stories of financial abuse. You've started a movement. I was about to respond when my office phone rang. The receptionist's voice was tense. Ms. Yasmin, your father's here. He says it's urgent. I glanced at Raylan, who nodded encouragingly. Send him up. Dad looked defeated as he entered, nothing like the intimidating figure of my childhood. We need to talk. About the GoFundMe? Or about Mom's inheritance lies? He sank into a chair. Your mother, she's not well, Yasmin. The doctors say her blood pressure's through the roof. She's talking about selling her wedding ring to pay bills. That's manipulation, and you know it. Maybe, he rubbed his face. But the foreclosure notice is real. We have 30 days. And you came here expecting... I don't know anymore. He looked around my office, taking in the success he'd never achieved. Your mother's always handled the money. I just worked and handed over my paycheck. Never questioned anything. That stops now, I said firmly. I'm done enabling, but I will help you help yourself. What does that mean? I pulled out a folder I'd prepared for exactly this conversation. The Foundation's first initiative: financial counseling, job placement assistance, debt management programs, but it comes with conditions. Such as? Mom has to attend therapy, you both need financial literacy classes, and the emotional manipulation stops, completely. He stared at the folder. She'll never agree. Then you have a choice to make, Dad. Stay trapped in her financial chaos or take control of your own life. His hands trembled as he reached for the folder. And Savannah? Same offer applies, but the money games end now. Your mother will see this as a betrayal. No, Dad. The betrayal was teaching me that love means emptying my bank account on demand. He stood slowly. I'll think about it. After he left, Raylan squeezed my shoulder. You okay? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Savannah. Dad told us about your offer. You're really going to make our parents jump through hoops for help? You've changed. I typed back. Yes, I have. I'm no longer financing anyone's bad decisions. The offer stands if you want real change. Her response was quick. Keep your charity. We don't need your condescending help. They'll come around, Raylan said, reading over my shoulder. Maybe, but I'm done waiting for their approval. My phone rang again. Piper this time. The charity gala's confirmed for next month. Every major player in the industry will be there. Your family drama better not overshadow it. It won't, I promised. In fact, I'm sending them invitations. Are you insane? Trust me. They need to see what they're up against. After hanging up, I drafted the invitations. Formal, professional, leaving no room for misinterpretation. You are cordially invited to the Financial Freedom Foundation's inaugural gala. You're playing with fire, Raylan warned. No, I'm taking control of the narrative. They want to make this public? Fine. Let's see how their victim story plays in front of 300 business leaders. The responses came within hours. From Mom, how dare you flaunt your wealth while we're losing everything? You'll regret this public humiliation. From Savannah, count me in. Can't wait to show everyone who you really are. From Dad, is the offer in the folder still open? I forwarded Dad's message to my foundation's counselor, then turned to Raylin. Want to help me pick out a gala dress? Something that screams successful and unbothered. Girl, I thought you'd never ask. As we headed out, I received one final text from Mom. You think you've won? Wait until the gala. If you want to play hardball, we can play hardball. Should we be worried? Raylin asked. I thought about the security measures already in place. The press invited, the live stream planned. No, for the first time, I'm not afraid of their threats. Because you're stronger? Because I finally realized something. Their power only worked when I gave them my fear, and I'm not afraid anymore. My phone buzzed with another message from Dad. I've signed up for the financial literacy class. Don't tell your mother. I smiled. Maybe there was hope after all, just not in the way I'd always imagined. The gala was 2 weeks away. Let them plot and scheme. This time, I'd be ready. The gala ballroom sparkled with success and influence. I stood at the entrance, greeting guests in my midnight blue gown, feeling powerful and prepared. Security guards were strategically positioned, and cameras live-streamed the event to thousands of online viewers. Quite a turnout, Piper said, appearing beside me. The governor just arrived. Any sign of my family? Your father's already inside, alone. She raised an eyebrow. Should we be worried about the others? Before I could answer, a commotion erupted at the entrance. Mom burst in, wearing her oldest church dress, Savannah right behind her. There she is, Mom's voice carried across the ballroom. My millionaire daughter who wants to teach us about money while we lose our home. Heads turned. Phones came out. Exactly as I'd expected. I approached them calmly, aware of all the cameras. Mom, Savannah, welcome. Your table is this way. Don't you dare act polite now! Mom's voice rose higher. Not after you humiliated us in the press. Mrs. Owens, one of the security guards stepped forward. Please lower your voice. Or what? You'll throw me out like my daughter threw us out of her life? I noticed Dad watching from across the room, looking pained, but staying put. Good. The counseling was working. Mom, I said quietly, you have two choices. Join the event respectfully or leave. There's no third option. Savannah pulled out her phone, clearly ready to record whatever came next. Go ahead, Mom. Show everyone who she really is. Who I really am. I turned to address the crowd of business leaders and journalists. Let me tell you who I really am. I'm someone who gave over $50,000 to my family last year alone, who paid mortgages, car payments, and credit card bills while postponing my own life goals. Mom's face reddened. How dare you? I'm someone, I continued, my voice steady, who finally realized that true love doesn't mean enabling destructive patterns. That's why this foundation exists, to help break the cycles of financial abuse that tear families apart. Liar, Mom reached into her purse and pulled out a stack of papers. I have proof of everything you stole from us. Security moved forward, but I held up my hand. Let her speak. Everyone should hear this. Mom waved the papers triumphantly. Bank statements, showing how she took your father's inheritance. The inheritance that never existed? Dad's voice cut through the tension. He walked over, standing beside me. Zlata, stop. There was no inheritance. You know that. Charles, don't you dare. I'm done lying, he said firmly. I'm done watching you manipulate our daughter. I'm done enabling you myself. The room was silent except for the click of cameras. The foundation helped me see the truth, Dad continued. I've started counseling, taken financial classes. For the first time in 40 years, I have my own bank account. Mom's hands shook. Traitor, you've turned against me too? No, Mom, I said softly. He's turned toward health, like I did, like you can too. Health? Savannah scoffed. Is that what you call abandoning your family? This foundation offers real help, I gestured around the room. Counseling, education, job training, everything you need to build financial independence. But you have to want to change. Change? Mom's voice turned vicious. You want change? How's this for change? She turned to the crowd. My daughter slept her way to the top. Security finally stepped in, gently but firmly escorting her toward the exit. Savannah followed, still filming, but her face showed the first traces of doubt. As they left, Piper touched my arm. That couldn't have gone better if we'd scripted it. She was right. Every moment had been captured, every lie exposed, every offer of real help documented. The Foundation's message couldn't have been clearer. Dad stayed by my side as I returned to hosting duties. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I should have stood up to her years ago. You're standing up now. That's what matters. My phone buzzed with a text from Savannah. Mom's crying in the car. Maybe you could send me information about those job training programs? Another buzz, this time from Mom. You'll regret this public humiliation. Mark my words. I showed the messages to Dad. Progress with one, at least. Your mother will never change, he said sadly. But I'm done enabling her, and I'm proud of you, sweetheart, for being stronger than I ever was. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of speeches, donations, and networking, but the real victory wasn't in the money raised or the connections made. It was in finally being free. As I took the stage for my closing speech, I saw Dad in the audience, sitting tall, looking hopeful. Behind him, through the windows, I caught a glimpse of Mom and Savannah still in the parking lot. The choice was theirs now, just like it had been mine. The autumn breeze rustled through the courtyard as I unlocked the door to the Foundation's new community center. The morning sun cast long shadows across the freshly painted walls and newly installed computers. Looking good in here, Raylan said, following me inside. Hard to believe this used to be your old office building. Seemed fitting. Turn the place where I enabled dependency into a space for teaching independence. My phone buzzed. A text from Savannah. Finished the job training program. Got 3 interviews next week. Thanks. She's really doing it. I showed Raylan the message. That's the 3rd program she's completed. And your mother? Before I could answer, the front door chimed. Dad walked in, looking healthier than I'd seen him in years. Ready for the group session? He'd become one of our most effective counselors, sharing his journey from financial enabling to independence. His divorce from Mom was almost final, and he'd moved into his own apartment for the first time in his life. "How's Mom taking the divorce?" I asked as we walked to the meeting room. "About as well as you'd expect. Still claims I abandoned her." He sighed. "But I'm not backing down this time." The meeting room was already filling up with people seeking help. I recognized the same desperate look I used to see in the mirror. People trapped in cycles of enabling, afraid to break free. "Welcome, everyone," Dad began. "Today we're talking about setting boundaries without guilt." The door burst open. Mom stood there, clutching her designer handbag, the last expensive thing I'd bought her. "So this is where you've all been hiding," she said, her voice bitter. "Having little meetings about what a terrible mother I am?" "Mom, this is a private session," I said firmly. "You're welcome to schedule your own counseling appointment." "Counseling? I don't need counseling. I need my family back." She turned to the group. "Do you know what she did? She abandoned us when we needed her most, and now she's poisoned my husband and daughter against me too." One of the participants, an elderly woman, stood up. "Ma'am, I used to be like you. Blamed my children for not supporting me, called them selfish for having boundaries. Want to know where it got me? Alone. Until this foundation helped me understand that love isn't about money." Mom's face crumpled. "But they're all I have." "No, Mom," I said gently. "We're not all you have. You have yourself. You have choices. You can choose to get help, to learn independence, to build real relationships not based on financial control." "I don't know how," she whispered, and for the first time in my life, I heard real vulnerability in her voice. "That's why we're here." Dad stepped forward, not to judge or blame, but to help break the cycle. "The cycle you created," she snapped, but the words lacked their usual venom. "Yes," he agreed. "The cycle I helped create and maintain, but it stops now." I pulled out a folder, the same one I'd offered months ago. "The offer still stands, Mom. Real help, real change, but you have to want it." She stared at the folder for a long moment. The room was silent, everyone watching this moment of truth. Finally, she reached for it with trembling hands. I don't know if I can change." "That's okay," the elderly woman said kindly. "None of us thought we could either. But we're here to support you." Mom sank into an empty chair, clutching the folder like a lifeline. Can I stay for the session?" I caught Dad's eye. He nodded. "Of course," I said. "That's why we're here." As Dad resumed the session, my phone buzzed with a message from Piper. "Merger's complete, empire's built. Ready for phase 2? I looked around the room, at Dad sharing his story, at Mom actually listening for once, at all the other families working to break free from toxic financial patterns. I typed back, "Already started. This is bigger than business now." Another text came in, this time from Savannah. "Got the job. First real paycheck in years. Never knew independence could feel this good." I smiled, remembering my own journey to this moment. The fear, the guilt, the liberation, and finally, the peace of knowing I'd broken free. Mom caught my eye across the room. For the first time in forever, she didn't look angry or demanding. She looked lost. But maybe that was the first step, being lost before finding a new way forward. I sat down next to her as Dad continued speaking. She didn't say anything, but she didn't pull away either. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Some cycles take generations to truly break. But it was a beginning, a real one, built on truth instead of manipulation, strength instead of enabling. And for now, that was enough.
The security footage played on my laptop screen for the 4th time, and each viewing made my blood boil hotter. There was my cousin Colby, clear as day, jimmying open the back door of my boutique at 2:47 a.m. I'd recognize that signature slouch anywhere, even with the hood pulled up. My name is Daphne, and I've spent the last 6 years building velvet and lace from nothing into one of the most successful boutiques in our city. Now I sat in my ransacked office, surrounded by empty display cases where my most expensive pieces had been. "Ma'am, We'll need you to sign here. The police officer handed me a form, his pen hovering over the spot where I needed to press charges. Are you absolutely certain about this? Family matters can be complicated. I grabbed the pen. Family doesn't steal $50,000 worth of merchandise from family. My phone buzzed again. The 7th call from my mother in the past hour. I silenced it without looking. The security company called me at 4 a.m., I told the officer, signing my name with sharp, angry strokes. I thought it was a false alarm until I saw the back door hanging open. Then I found this. I handed him the note I'd discovered pinned to my office door. Sorry, cuz. Desperate times. I'll make it right someday. C. The officer bagged it as evidence, while his partner photographed the empty cases. My pride and joy, vintage Cartier pieces, limited edition handbags, and custom jewelry, all gone. Daphne, my sister Lexi burst through the front door, still in her pajamas. Mom's freaking out. Tell me you haven't pressed charges yet. Too late. I crossed my arms. And don't start with the buddy's family speech. You don't understand what you're doing. Lexi grabbed my arm. Uncle Graham is livid. He's talking about cutting you off completely. I yanked free. Cut me off from what? The family that's calling me a traitor for holding their precious Colby accountable? My phone buzzed again, this time a text from my aunt. How dare you do this to your own cousin, after everything we've done for you? I laughed bitterly. Everything they've done for me? I built this place myself. Every penny, every late night, every sacrifice. That was all me. Ma'am, the officer interrupted, we've got enough for now. We'll be in touch once we locate your cousin. After they left, Lexi paced the shop floor while I began cataloging the missing items for insurance. He's been struggling, she said softly, ever since he lost his job. Don't. I slammed my laptop shut. Don't you dare make excuses for him. He didn't steal bread to feed his children. He took luxury items he can fence for quick cash, probably to pay off whatever mess he's gotten himself into this time. You don't know that. I know exactly what I saw on that footage. I pulled it up again, pointing at the screen. Look how he goes straight for the high-value cases. He knew exactly what he wanted. This wasn't desperation. It was calculated. My phone lit up with a text from Colby himself. Please, cuz, don't do this. I can explain everything. He's reaching out, Lexi said hopefully. Maybe if you just talk to him. The time for talking was before he broke into my store. I deleted the message without responding. Actions have consequences. It's time this family learned that. You'll regret this, Lexi warned, heading for the door. When you're alone at the next family gathering, if you're even invited, you'll wish you'd handled this differently. Maybe. I stood amid the wreckage of my shop, my voice steady, but I'd regret letting him get away with it even more. After she left, I walked the silent aisles of my boutique, straightening items that had been knocked askew during the break-in. 6 years of work, of proving everyone wrong when they said I was crazy to open a high-end shop in this economy. 6 years of building something I could be proud of. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Victoria, our family matriarch. Come see me tomorrow. There are things you need to know. I stared at the message for a long moment before putting my phone away. Whatever Victoria had to say could wait. Right now, I had a store to put back together and a security system to upgrade. My family wanted to paint me as the villain? Fine. Sometimes justice was more important than keeping the peace. I looked at the empty cases one last time before locking up for the day. Colby had chosen his path. Now I was choosing mine. Victoria's house smelled like cinnamon and secrets. She poured tea from a delicate porcelain pot while I sat stiffly on her antique sofa, still angry from the morning's confrontation with Uncle Graham in my shop's parking lot. You're making a terrible mistake, he'd shouted, face red with rage. My boy made one bad choice. One. And you're ready to ruin his life over some insured merchandise? Your boy is 29 years old, I'd fired back, old enough to know breaking and entering is a crime. Now Victoria studied me over her teacup. You've stirred up quite the hornet's nest, dear. They're the ones swarming. I set my untouched tea down. Did you ask me here to convince me to drop the charges too? No. Victoria's eyes narrowed. I asked you here because it's time you understood what you're really dealing with. Before she could continue, the front door burst open. My mother rushed in, followed by Lexi. There you are. Mom's voice trembled. I've been calling for days. How could you do this to us? To you? I stood up. He robbed me. Rhea, sit down, Victoria commanded. You're not helping. But she's destroying this family. Mom collapsed into an armchair. Colby's talking about leaving town. Graham won't even speak to me anymore. Good, I snapped. Maybe he should focus on why his son's a thief instead of threatening me. Lexi stepped between us. Daphne, please, just hear Mom out. No, you all need to hear me. I faced them each in turn. Colby broke into my store. He stole from me. He betrayed my trust. And instead of holding him accountable, you're all acting like I'm the criminal. It's more complicated than that, Victoria said quietly. What's complicated about it? Victoria set her tea down with a sharp clink. Colby's actions. They're part of a pattern, one this family has chosen to ignore for far too long. Victoria, don't. Mom's warning was sharp. Don't what? I looked between them. What pattern? Victoria's response was cut off by my phone ringing. Kent's name flashed on the screen, my friend who'd been helping me document the aftermath of the break-in. Take it, Victoria said, but come back tomorrow, alone. I stepped onto the porch to answer. Kent, you need to get down here. His voice was urgent. I was reviewing the security footage again. There's something you need to see. I'm on my way. I grabbed my purse, ignoring my mother's protests. Daphne, wait. Lexi caught up to me at my car. There's something you should know about Colby, about what happened 3 years ago at Uncle Tommy's wedding. Save it. I yanked my door open. I'm done with family secrets. But no. I met her eyes. Either stand with me or get out of my way. I'm finding out the truth, with or without this family's help. The drive to Kent's office was a blur of anger and questions. What pattern was Victoria talking about? What had happened at Tommy's wedding? Why did it feel like everyone knew something I didn't? Kent was waiting outside his accounting firm. You're not going to believe this. He led me to his office, pulling up the footage on his computer. Watch Tommy here. The video showed Tommy arriving at my store 2 hours before Colby's break-in, testing the back door before leaving. He cased the place for him, my hands clenched into fists. My own uncle helped him do this. There's more. Kent pulled up some old bank statements. Remember when you asked me to look into Colby's finances? I found a pattern of large cash deposits following other robberies in the area. And guess who else had similar deposits? Tommy's bank records filled the screen. They've done this before, I whispered. They've been doing this together. Want to know the kicker? Kent pointed to a transaction. 3 years ago, right after Tommy's wedding, they both made massive deposits. The same week that high-end jewelry store was hit. Lexi's earlier words echoed in my head. Something about what happened at Tommy's wedding. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Now you're asking the right questions. Come tomorrow at noon. Bring what your friend found. I looked at Kent. I need copies of everything. Already done. He handed me a USB drive. What are you going to do? I thought about my family's desperate attempts to keep me quiet, about Victoria's hints and Lexi's unfinished warning. I'm going to rip their secrets wide open, I said. All of them. Victoria's hands shook as she examined the bank statements Kent had compiled. I knew, she whispered. I knew, but I never had proof. Proof of what exactly? I leaned forward. What's really going on here? Before she could answer, someone pounded on her front door. Tommy's voice boomed through. Victoria, open up. I know she's in there. Victoria's eyes widened. Quick, through the back. She shoved the USB drive into my hands. Take these to the storage unit on Maple Street, number 479. The key's under the snake plant by your feet. There's more there. Everything I've collected over the years. The pounding grew louder. I grabbed the key, slipping out through her garden just as I heard the front door burst open. Where is she? Tommy's voice carried through the open window. Who? Victoria's voice was steel. And how dare you barge into my home like this? I didn't stay to hear more, racing to my car and speeding toward Maple Street. My phone exploded with messages. 3 from Tommy, 2 from Uncle Graham, and 1 from Colby. You have no idea what you're doing. Stop digging. The storage unit was small and dusty. Inside, I found boxes of old documents, photographs, and journals. A manila envelope caught my eye, labeled Wedding Incident 2020. I thought I'd find you here. I spun around. Lexi stood in the doorway, arms crossed. How did you? I followed you from Victoria's. She stepped inside, closing the door. Tommy's losing it. He knows Victoria's been keeping records. Records of what? I held up the envelope. What happened at the wedding, Lexi? She sank down onto a box. I saw something I shouldn't have. Tommy and Colby, behind the reception hall. They were splitting up money, talking about some job they'd pulled. When they saw me, she shuddered. Tommy said if I ever told anyone, he'd make sure Mom lost everything. What do you mean, lost everything? The family business? It's not just Dad's name on it. Tommy and Graham have been using it to launder money for years. One word from Tommy, and it all comes crashing down. My phone buzzed. Kent, you need to see this. Found police reports matching the dates of their deposits. Hit after hit, all high-end retailers. They're career criminals, I whispered, and the family's been covering for them. Not all of us. Lexi grabbed a journal from a nearby box. Victoria's been documenting everything. That's why she pushed you to investigate. She needed someone who wasn't afraid to stand up to them. I started photographing documents with my phone. We need copies of everything before... The storage unit door rattled. Graham's voice carried through. The car's here. Check inside. Back corner, Lexi hissed, pointing to a hidden door connecting to the next unit. Victoria showed me once. Go, I'll stall them. I slipped through with an armful of documents just as the main door rolled up. Through the thin wall, I heard Graham's angry voice. Where is she? Where's who? Lexi's innocent tone was perfect. I'm just cleaning out some old stuff Victoria said I could have. Don't play dumb. Tommy this time. Where are the records? I don't know what you're talking about, but if you're looking for Daphne, she's meeting with her lawyer right now. Something about security footage showing you at her store before the break-in? Silence followed her words. Then Graham spoke quietly. Tommy, you said you weren't involved. I'm not. She's lying. Am I? Lexi's voice hardened. I saw the footage myself. Want to explain that to Uncle Graham? Or should we talk about what really happened at your wedding? More silence. Then footsteps retreating, followed by cars starting. Lexi opened the connecting door. They're gone, but they'll be back with reinforcements. I clutched the documents to my chest. Why are you helping me now? You were against me pressing charges. Because I'm tired of being afraid. She grabbed another box of records. Victoria's right. Someone needs to stop them. But you can't do it alone. My phone lit up with a text from Victoria. Got away from Tommy. Meet at Kent's office. Bring everything. I looked at Lexi. You sure about this? Once we expose them... Mom will never forgive us, she finished. But maybe that's the price of doing the right thing. We loaded the boxes into my car, documents that would shatter our family forever. But as we drove to Kent's office, I felt lighter than I had in days. The truth was finally coming out, and there was no stopping it now. Kent's office looked like a war room, with documents spread across every surface. Victoria sat at his desk, methodically sorting through years of evidence while Lexi and I cross-referenced dates with police reports. Look at this, Kent said, pointing to his computer screen. Every major robbery in the past 5 years. They all line up with family events. The country club heist, right after Graham's anniversary party. The art gallery theft, the weekend of Mom's funeral. Perfect alibis, Victoria nodded. Who would suspect someone attending a family function? My phone buzzed. Mom again. Please come home. We can talk about this. Don't answer, Lexi warned. She's with Graham and Tommy at the house. They're trying to trap you into a family meeting. The office door burst open. Colby stood there, pale and sweating. Get out, I snapped, reaching for my phone. Wait. He held up his hands. I'm not here to cause trouble. I need to talk to you, alone. Kent stepped between us. That's not happening. Please. Colby's voice cracked. They're going to pin everything on me. Tommy and Dad, they're meeting with their lawyer right now. They're going to say I acted alone, that I've been stealing for years without their knowledge. Victoria stood up. Let him talk. You can talk right here, I said, in front of everyone. Colby slumped into a chair. It started at Tommy's wedding. I was in debt, bad debt. Tommy said he could help, but I had to do exactly what he said. The wedding was just a test run. The jewelry store robbery, Lexi said quietly. Yeah. Colby wiped his face. After that, it got easier. Tommy would pick the targets, Dad would handle the money laundering through the family business, and I did the actual jobs. And my store? My voice shook with anger. Was that their idea too? No. He wouldn't meet my eyes. That was all me. I thought if I hit someone in the family, they couldn't report it without exposing everything. I never expected you to actually press charges. You underestimated her, Victoria said sharply. Just like they all did. Kent's printer whirred to life, spitting out documents. I've got enough here to bury all of them. Bank records, security footage, witness statements, everything. They'll destroy Mom's life, Lexi whispered. The business... Mom's not innocent in this, I said. She knew. They all knew. Not everything. Colby pulled out his phone. But you're right, and I can prove it. I've been recording their conversations for months. Insurance, in case they ever tried to throw me under the bus. Like they're doing now. He played a recording. Tommy's voice filled the room. If anyone starts asking questions, Colby takes the fall. That was always the deal. Graham, back me up here. They're meeting at the house tonight, Colby said. Everyone will be there. They're planning to present a united front, make me out to be the black sheep who's been stealing from the family for years. Victoria's eyes gleamed. Then that's where we'll confront them. All of us, with all of this evidence. It's too dangerous, Kent protested. They're cornered animals at this point. No, I stood up. Victoria's right. I'm tired of hiding. Tired of them controlling the narrative. Tonight ends it. All of it. Lexi grabbed my arm. Then we do it smart. Kent, call your friend at the police department. Have them ready, but out of sight. Colby, you'll need to wear a wire. Already ahead of you. Kent pulled out recording equipment. State of the art. They'll never know. I'll get them drinking, Victoria said. They always talk more when they're drunk. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Mom. Family dinner tonight, 7 p.m., non-negotiable. I showed them the text. Looks like we're expected. Good. Colby attached the wire under his shirt. Time they learned they can't control everything. We spent the next hour preparing, gathering documents, making copies, ensuring every piece of evidence was bulletproof. One way or another, tonight would change everything. Ready? Lexi asked as we prepared to leave. I looked at our unlikely alliance. Victoria, the secret keeper turned whistleblower. Kent, the loyal friend who never backed down. Colby, the thief seeking redemption. And Lexi, the sister who finally chose truth over peace. Ready, I said. Let's go blow up our family. As we drove to my childhood home, I thought about all the family dinners where lies were served alongside Mom's pot roast. Tonight, truth would be the main course, and justice for dessert. Whether they were ready or not, everything was about to change. Mom's pot roast filled the house with a familiar aroma that turned my stomach. Everyone sat around the dining room table, the good china laid out like this was just another family dinner. Kent waited in his car down the street, monitoring Colby's wire and coordinating with the police. Well, Graham raised his wine glass. Shall we discuss this situation like adults? Let's. I remained standing, my bag of evidence heavy at my feet. Let's start with Tommy casing my store 2 hours before Colby broke in. Tommy's fork clattered against his plate. That's ridiculous. Is it? Victoria pulled out her tablet. Because the security footage is quite clear. You brought her into this? Mom's face paled. Victoria, you promised. I promised to protect this family. Victoria cut in. Not its criminals. Graham slammed his hand on the table. Now listen here. No, you listen. Lexi's voice cracked through the air. We know everything. The wedding heist, the art gallery, the country club, all of it. Lexi, Mom gasped. How could I what, Mom? Tell the truth? Someone had to. Colby shifted uncomfortably, the wire hidden under his shirt broadcasting everything to Kent. You don't understand, Tommy said smoothly. Sometimes families have to what? I pulled out the bank statements. Launder money, stage robberies, threaten their own relatives into silence. Graham's face turned red. You ungrateful... Don't! Victoria's command froze him mid-sentence. Don't you dare call her ungrateful when you've been stealing from her generation's future to fund your schemes. The business, Mom started, is built on criminal money. I finished. We have proof. Years of it. Tommy stood up slowly. Whatever you think you have. We have everything. Lexi pulled out her phone, playing one of Colby's recordings. Tommy's voice filled the room, discussing plans for the art gallery heist. The color drained from his face. Where did you get that? From me. Colby's voice shook. I recorded everything. Every planning session, every threat, every time you promised it would be the last job. You little snake, Graham snarled, lunging across the table at his son. Touch him and I call in the police right now, I warned, holding up my phone. They're already outside. The room went deadly quiet. You wouldn't, Mom whispered. We're your family. Family? I laughed bitterly. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't threaten each other. Family doesn't force their children to become criminals. We did what we had to do, Graham insisted. The business was failing. So you turned to theft? Victoria's voice dripped contempt. You forced your own son into becoming your burglar? I didn't force. Yes, you did, Colby exploded. You said if I didn't help, you'd let the loan sharks come after me. Your own son. Tommy moved toward the door. This is all very dramatic, but... Sit down. Lexi blocked his path. Nobody's leaving until everything's out in the open. Everything already is, I said, pulling out my phone. Kent, you getting all this? Crystal clear. His voice came through the speaker. Police are ready on my signal. You're bluffing, Tommy sneered. Try me. I met his eyes. One word from me and they come in, or we can handle this my way. Which is, Graham demanded, confession, restitution, and you all get help, real help. Otherwise, I send everything to the police. Every recording, every document, every piece of evidence we've gathered. You'd destroy this family? Mom's voice broke. You already did that, Lexi said quietly. We're just bringing it into the light. Silence fell as they absorbed our ultimatum. I could see them calculating, weighing options, looking for escape routes. Time's up, I announced. What's it going to be? Tommy slumped in his chair. How much? Everything you stole plus interest. And you all get counseling. Real counseling, not just family therapy where you lie to the therapist. And if we refuse? Graham's voice was dangerous. I pulled out one final document, a detailed confession Colby had written, naming names, dates, amounts. Then this goes public, all of it. The grandfather clock ticked loudly in the silence. Finally, Mom spoke. Graham, she said softly, it's over. Let it be over. He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, I said, pulling out contracts Kent had prepared. Let's begin. As they started signing, I caught Victoria's approving nod. This wasn't the end. There would be months of rehabilitation, therapy, and rebuilding trust. But it was a start. The truth was finally out, and with it came the first real chance our family had at healing. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I sat in Dr. Marshall's office, watching my family attempt group therapy for the first time. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. So, Dr. Marshall adjusted her glasses. Who would like to begin? Nobody moved. Tommy stared at the floor. Graham fidgeted with his wedding ring. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I will. Colby straightened up. I've been clean for 20 days now. The gambling addiction meetings are helping. That's wonderful, Colby. Dr. Marshall smiled. Would anyone like to respond to that? Why didn't you come to me? Mom burst out. I'm your mother. You could have told me about the gambling instead of letting Tommy drag you into... Don't you dare blame this on me, Tommy snapped. You're the one who taught us to hide everything. Family image is everything, Tommy. Don't let anyone know we're struggling, Tommy. That's not what Enough! Victoria's voice cut through the chaos. We're here to heal, not assign blame. Dr. Marshall nodded. Victoria's right. This isn't about pointing fingers. It's about understanding how we got here and where we go next. I know where I'm going, Graham muttered. Straight to bankruptcy thanks to their restitution plan. The business will survive, I said firmly. Kent's financial team is restructuring everything legitimately. You're lucky we're not all going to prison. Lexi touched my arm. Daphne, remember what we discussed about productive dialogue? I took a deep breath. You're right. I'm sorry. What I meant was, we have a chance to rebuild, the right way this time. Speaking of rebuilding, Dr. Marshall consulted her notes. How is the repayment plan progressing? The first installment was transferred to my account yesterday, I confirmed, and the insurance company dropped their investigation after we explained things. Explained things? Tommy scoffed. You mean after we humiliated ourselves with a confession? After you took responsibility, Victoria corrected. There's a difference. Can we talk about trust? Colby's voice was quiet. I know I broke it, with everyone, but especially with you, Daphne. I want to make it right. Trust is earned, I said, softer this time. But you're trying. That matters. Mom started crying again. I just don't understand how we got here. Where did I go wrong? Mom, Lexi leaned forward. This isn't about wrong or right anymore. It's about honesty. Real honesty, not just the appearance of perfection. Dr. Marshall nodded encouragingly. That's very insightful, Lexi. How does everyone feel about what she just said? Scared, Graham admitted, surprising everyone. I've spent so long maintaining this image, I don't know how to be anything else. That's why we're here, Dr. Marshall said, to learn new patterns. Speaking of which, how are the individual therapy sessions going? Tommy shifted uncomfortably. My therapist says I have control issues. You don't say, I muttered, earning a sharp look from Lexi. Actually, Tommy continued, she's probably right. I think I got addicted to the power. The planning, the control, making everyone dance to my tune. That's very self-aware, Tommy, Dr. Marshall praised. Recognition is the first step toward change. My phone buzzed. A text from Kent. Insurance check cleared. Store repairs can start tomorrow. Daphne? Dr. Marshall's voice pulled me back. Would you like to share what you're feeling right now? I looked around the room. At Colby's genuine remorse, at Tommy's struggling self-awareness, at Graham's uncomfortable acceptance, at Mom's tearful hope, at Victoria's quiet strength, at Lexi's unwavering support. I feel cautiously optimistic, I said finally. We're not okay. We might not be okay for a long time, but we're trying. That's something we never did before. Baby steps, Victoria agreed. Rome wasn't built in a day, and families aren't healed in one either. Dr. Marshall smiled. That's a good place to end today's session. Remember your individual appointments this week and the homework we discussed. As we filed out, Mom caught my arm. Sunday dinner? She asked hesitantly. I know it's not required in the agreement, but maybe, I said. Let's see how this week goes. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But as I watched them leave, each carrying their own weight of guilt and hope, I realized something had shifted. The lies were gone, replaced by uncomfortable truths. It hurt, but it was a clean hurt, like setting a broken bone so it could heal properly. My phone buzzed again. The contractor confirming tomorrow's appointment to repair my store. One step at a time, everything was being rebuilt, including us. Maybe that's what real family was. Not perfect harmony, but the willingness to face the discord and work through it together. The grand reopening of Velvet and Lace was set for Saturday morning. I stood in the newly renovated space, adjusting a display case when the bell above the door chimed. Wow. Colby stood awkwardly in the entrance. It looks amazing. What are you doing here? I hadn't seen him outside of therapy sessions in weeks. He held up a small package. I wanted to return this before the reopening. Inside was a vintage Cartier bracelet, one of the pieces he'd stolen. I tracked it down from the fence I sold it to, took most of my savings, but you didn't have to. Yes, I did. He placed it carefully on the counter. I know it doesn't make up for everything, but it's a start. The bell chimed again. Tommy walked in, stopping short when he saw Colby. I can come back, he muttered. No, I said firmly. What do you want? He pulled out an envelope. The final insurance paperwork and something else. He handed me a stack of papers. My confession, the full version, every job, every plan, every detail. Do with it what you want. Why now? My therapist says I need to face what I've done, all of it. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She's right. I can't keep pretending I was just helping Colby. I was the mastermind, and I need to own that. The bell chimed a third time. Mom stood there with Victoria and Lexi, carrying boxes. We thought you could use help setting up, Lexi said, setting down her box. But if it's not a good time... Actually, I looked around at them. Maybe this is exactly the right time. We spent the next hour working together, arranging displays and unpacking inventory. The tension slowly eased as we fell into a rhythm. "Remember when you first opened?" Mom asked, carefully arranging a silk scarf. "I thought you were crazy to invest your savings in a boutique." "You told me I'd fail within 6 months," I reminded her. I was wrong. She touched my arm. "About so many things." "Mom, no, let me finish." She straightened her shoulders. "I pushed this family to maintain appearances at any cost. I ignored the warning signs. I chose willful blindness over truth. And look where it got us." "Speaking of truth," Tommy interrupted, "there's something else you should know." He glanced at Colby. "The country club heist? It wasn't just us. Graham was there too." "What?" Mom's face went pale. "He was the lookout," Colby confirmed. "He said he needed to make sure we did it right." Victoria nodded grimly. "I suspected as much. That's why he fought so hard against the therapy sessions." The bell chimed again. Kent walked in, carrying coffee for everyone. "How's it going in here?" He stopped, sensing the tension. "Bad time?" "Perfect time," I said, taking a coffee. "We're finally getting some real honesty." "About that," Colby cleared his throat. "Kent, I owe you an apology too. I know you lost clients when this all came out." Kent shrugged. "Actually, I gained some. Turns out people appreciate an accountant who exposes financial crimes instead of hiding them." "Unlike some people," Tommy muttered. "That's not fair," Mom protested. "Your father is exactly where he needs to be." Victoria cut in therapy, facing his choices. We worked in silence for a while, the weight of truth settling around us like dust. "The opening tomorrow," Colby said suddenly. "Will you have security?" "Yes," I met his eyes. "And cameras and alarms. Trust takes time." He nodded. "I understand. I'll earn it back. Somehow." "We all will," Tommy added quietly. The afternoon light slanted through the windows, making the new display cases sparkle. My restored boutique felt different now, stronger somehow, like it had weathered a storm and come out better for it. "I'd like to come tomorrow," Mom said. "To the opening, if that's okay." I looked at her, really looked at her. The perfect facade was gone, replaced by something more real, more vulnerable. "I'd like that," I said. "All of you can come, but no stealing." The joke fell flat, but Colby managed a weak laugh. "Too soon?" I asked. "Maybe a few years too soon," Lexi smiled. "But we'll get there." As they left that evening, each carrying the weight of their confessions and the lightness of truth, I realized something. We weren't just rebuilding my store, we were rebuilding ourselves, one painful truth at a time. Tomorrow would be a new beginning, not just for Velvet and Lace, but for all of us. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be real. And real was exactly what we needed. The reopening celebration was in full swing when Graham walked through the door. The bustling crowd fell silent, all eyes turning to watch this unexpected arrival. "Dad?" Colby stepped forward. "What are you doing here?" Graham held up a small gift bag. "I came to return something." He walked to where I stood behind the counter. "And to say something." I took the bag cautiously. Inside was a familiar pearl necklace, my grandmother's, which had disappeared during the reading of her will. "You took this?" My hands shook as I lifted it out. "My first theft," he admitted, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. "I told myself she would have wanted me to have it. Just like I told myself every excuse after that." "Graham," Mom whispered. "Not here." "Yes, here." He turned to face the gathered crowd. "My name is Graham Walker, and I'm a thief. I taught my son and my nephew to be thieves. I nearly destroyed this store and this family because I couldn't face my own failures." Kent moved closer, ready to intervene if needed. "But that stops today," Graham continued. "I've signed over my share of the family business to Lexi. She'll run it properly, legally, the way it should have been run all along." Lexi gasped. "Dad, I can't." "Yes, you can." He managed a weak smile. "You're stronger than I ever was. All of you are." Tommy stepped forward. "Uncle Graham." "No more excuses." Graham cut him off. "No more lies, no more pretending." He turned back to me. "I'm sorry, Daphne. Not just for the necklace or the break-in, but for making you doubt yourself when you were the only one brave enough to stand up for what's right. Victoria appeared at my side, taking the necklace. I remember when your grandmother wore this to my wedding, she said, fastening it around my neck. She would be proud of you today. All of us? I asked pointedly. No, she smiled sadly. But she would be hopeful, like I am. The crowd began to disperse, returning to browsing and champagne. Graham turned to leave, but Colby caught his arm. Stay, he said. Please, we're having dinner after, all of us. Even Tommy's bringing his therapist. Graham looked around uncertainly. I don't deserve... It's not about deserving, I interrupted. It's about choosing. Every day we choose who we want to be. Today, you chose truth. That matters. The afternoon flowed into evening. Customers came and went, many drawn by the story that had made local headlines. But they stayed for the merchandise, the atmosphere, and the palpable sense of renewal. As the last customers left, we gathered around the central display case, the same one Colby had emptied that night that felt like a lifetime ago. Kent poured champagne while Victoria brought out a cake. To new beginnings, Mom raised her glass. And hard truths, Tommy added. And family, Lexi said firmly. The real kind. Graham cleared his throat. I have something else to say. He pulled out a folded paper. I've been working with my therapist on this. It's a list of everyone I've wronged, and how I plan to make amends. Dad, Colby started. Let me finish. Graham's voice strengthened. I can't take back what I did, but I can work every day to be better, to be worthy of the second chance you've all given me. That's what family does, I said, surprising myself. We hold each other accountable, but we also hold each other up. Victoria raised her glass. To accountability. And to forgiveness, I added, meeting each of their eyes in turn. Not the easy kind that comes with denial, but the hard kind that comes after truth. As we celebrated into the evening, I looked around my restored boutique. The new security system blinked steadily, a reminder of lessons learned. But it was more than that. Each display case now held stories of theft and redemption, of lies and truth, of breaking and rebuilding. Kent squeezed my hand. You did it. We did it, I corrected, watching my family, broken but healing, imperfect but trying. All of us. The night ended with promises of Sunday dinner, therapy appointments, and continued amends. As they left, each carrying their own mixture of regret and hope, I realized something profound. Sometimes it takes breaking something completely to rebuild it stronger. Sometimes the hardest path, the one through truth and accountability, is the only way to real healing. I locked up my boutique, the security system humming reassuringly. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time in months, I was ready to face them. Because this time, I wasn't facing them alone.
The smell of burnt sugar filled my parents' dining room, but it wasn't coming from any of my baking experiments. It was the acrid stench of another one of my dreams going up in flames. I'm Sawyer, and I've spent 29 years watching my younger brother's half-baked schemes get served up with a heaping side of parental approval, while my own ambitions got tossed in the trash. A bakery? My father's fork clattered against his plate. You want to throw away your finance career to sell cupcakes? It's not just cupcakes, Dad. I straightened my spine, gripping my water glass to keep my hands from shaking. I've done the market research. There's no artisanal bakery in this part of town, and with my business background. Speaking of business, my mother cut in, beaming at my brother across the table. Kyson, tell your sister about your new venture. Kyson lounged back in his chair, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. It's gonna be huge. We're talking cryptocurrency meets social media meets. Mom, Dad, please. I set down my glass before I could crack it. I didn't come here for Kyson's elevator pitch. I came to tell you I'm using my bonus to open Sweet Victory Bakery. Honey. Mom reached across the table, her fingers brushing my wrist. We know you love baking, but it's just a hobby. Kyson's new platform could revolutionize. Like his dating app revolutionized things? The words shot out before I could stop them. Or his subscription box service, or his. Those were learning experiences, Dad snapped. At least your brother has vision. You're talking about throwing away a six-figure salary to play Betty Crocker. I'm not playing at anything. I pulled out my phone, pulling up the business plan I'd spent months perfecting. Look at these projections. I've already found the perfect location and my friend Tiara. Your bonus could really help Kyson get his new venture off the ground, Mom said softly. Family should support family. I looked at Kyson, who was typing away on his phone, probably tweeting about his next big thing. He hadn't even bothered to ask what kind of bakery I wanted to open. You're right, Mom. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Family should support family. That's why I came here tonight, hoping you'd finally support me. Sawyer, sit down, Dad ordered. We're not finished discussing this. Actually, we are. I grabbed my purse. I signed the lease this morning. The bonus is already in escrow. You what? Mom's face went pale. Without consulting us? I'm 29 years old. I don't need consultation to invest my own money in my own dream. Kyson finally looked up from his phone. Come on, Saw. Don't be dramatic. Just hear me out about my project. It's guaranteed to fail? I laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. Like everything else you've tried? The difference is, I've been planning this for years. I've been taking night classes in business management. I've been apprenticing with Bo at his bakery every weekend. I'm not jumping into this blind. You're making a mistake, Dad said, his voice hard. When this fails, I corrected, and if it does, I'll handle it myself, just like I've handled everything else. I walked to the door, pausing with my hand on the knob. You know what the funny thing is? I actually thought you'd be proud of me for once, for having the courage to chase my dream instead of just talking about it. Sawyer, Mom started, the bakery opens in 6 weeks. You're all welcome to come. I pulled open the door, but only if you're ready to actually taste what I'm capable of. The door clicked shut behind me, and I stood on the porch, letting the cool evening air dry the tears I refused to shed. My phone buzzed. A text from Kiara. How'd it go? I typed back. Exactly as expected. Meet me at Bo's. Her response was immediate. On my way, first round of stress baking is on me. Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. Maybe it was because I'd finally stood up to them, or maybe it was because, for the first time in my life, I wasn't asking for permission to be myself. Either way, I knew one thing for certain. Sweet Victory Bakery wasn't just going to be a business. It was going to be proof that sometimes the best revenge is served fresh from the oven, with a sprinkle of success on top. 6 weeks flew by in a blur of flour, sugar, and sleepless nights. Opening day at Sweet Victory Bakery arrived with the smell of fresh croissants and nervous energy. These display cases are spotless, Bridget said, adjusting a tray of raspberry Danish. I've cleaned them 3 times already. Make it 4, I replied, rearranging macarons for the 10th time. Everything has to be perfect. Tira burst through the back door, holding a massive bouquet. First delivery of the day. Card says it's from Bo. I plucked the card from the flowers. To the newest baker on the block. Show them what you're made of. That man's a saint. The bell above the door chimed, and my heart stopped. But it wasn't my family, just our first customer. Then another, and another. By noon, the display cases were half empty, and Bridget was starting a 3rd batch of chocolate croissants. The lunch rush brought in curious office workers, and word of mouth did the rest. Your sourdough is incredible, an elderly woman told me, clutching her paper bag. I haven't tasted bread like this since I left Europe. I was boxing up her order when my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Kyson's big announcement tonight. Family dinner at 7. Don't be late. Everything okay? Kiara asked, noticing my expression. Family dinner tonight. Kyson's announcing his new venture. On your opening day? That's not a coincidence. Of course it's not. I handed the box to the customer. But I'm going anyway. They need to see I can do both, run this place and still show up for family. The rest of the afternoon passed in a whirlwind of customers and compliments. At 6:30, I changed out of my flour-dusted clothes and headed to my parents' house, bringing a box of our best-selling items. I walked in to find Kyson holding court in the living room, laptop open on the coffee table. Perfect timing, sis. He waved me over. I'm just showing Mom and Dad the projection slides. How was your bakery's first day? Mom asked, but her eyes never left Kyson's screen. It was... Look at these numbers, Kyson interrupted, pointing at his laptop. We're talking serious ROI within the first quarter. I just need some seed money to get it off the ground. Dad nodded approvingly. How much are we talking? 200,000, but it's practically guaranteed. 200,000? I nearly dropped the pastry box. That's more than double what I invested in my entire bakery. This is different, Dad said dismissively. This is a tech startup. The potential return is exponential. I set the box on the coffee table. I brought some samples from today. We sold out of almost everything, but I saved these for you. Mom glanced at the box. That's nice, dear. Kyson, tell us more about the user interface. I watched as they fawned over Kyson's PowerPoint presentation, complete with buzzwords and pie charts that made no sense. The pastries sat untouched. We've already committed to backing him, Dad announced proudly. Your mother and I are liquidating some investments. Your what? I stood up so fast my head spun. After all his failed ventures? Failed? Kyson scoffed. They were learning experiences. This time it's different. I've got investors lined up. Then why do you need Mom and Dad's money? Because they believe in me. He slammed his laptop shut. Unlike some people. I believe in reality, I shot back. And the reality is, I just opened a successful business with less than half of what you're asking for. A cute little bakery isn't exactly disrupting the tech industry, he sneered. No, it's just feeding actual people and turning an actual profit on day one. Mom stood between us. That's enough. Sawyer, if you can't be supportive... Supportive? I laughed. Like you were this morning when you couldn't even show up to my opening? The room fell silent. I picked up the untouched pastry box. You know what? Keep the money in the family. But when this falls apart, and it will, don't come crying to me. It won't fall apart, Dad insisted. Your brother has a real vision this time. So do I said quietly. But you'd have to actually visit my bakery to see it. I walked out again. But this time, I wasn't sad. I was angry and determined. My phone buzzed. Bridget sending me tomorrow's pre-orders. We were already booked solid for custom cakes through the next month. I typed back, get ready for an early morning. We're going to show this town what a cute little bakery can do. Let Kyson have his parents' money and approval. I had something better, a real business, built with my own hands, that was already proving them all wrong. 3 months after opening day, I was elbow deep in cookie dough when Bridget rushed into the kitchen, eyes wide. Your parents are here, she whispered. They're standing in the middle of the morning rush, looking confused. I wiped my hands on my apron. Of course they show up during our busiest time. The line stretched out the door. Our new normal since the local paper had featured us last week. Mom and Dad stood awkwardly near the register, taking in the exposed brick walls and the constant stream of customers clutching coffee cups and pastry bags. Welcome to Sweet Victory, I said, stepping behind the counter. First time here? Mom's eyes darted around the packed cafe. We were in the neighborhood. The neighborhood you haven't visited in 3 months? I started boxing up a selection of our best sellers. Try the lavender honey scones. They're why we had the TV crew here yesterday. TV crew? Dad's head snapped up. Local morning show. They're doing a segment on successful new businesses. I handed them the box. On the house. Before they could respond, Kira called from the register. Sawyer, the wedding consultation is here. Wedding consultation? Mom echoed. We're doing 3 wedding cakes this weekend. I gestured to the portfolio on the counter. We're booked solid through summer now. Excuse me, I have customers waiting. I spent the next hour walking a bride through cake designs while watching my parents from the corner of my eye. They sat at a corner table, picking at their pastries and watching the constant flow of customers. Is that really your parents? The bride asked, following my gaze. My mom says she has to make reservations just to get your weekend brunch pastry boxes now. They must be so proud. I forced a smile. You'd think so, wouldn't you? Just then, Kyson burst through the door, face flushed. He barely acknowledged our parents before making a beeline for me. We need to talk, he hissed, privately. I'm with a client. It's important. I apologized to the bride and followed Kyson to the back office. He closed the door and started pacing. The investors pulled out, he blurted. All of them, the whole thing's falling apart. The guaranteed success? The exponential returns? Don't. He ran his hands through his hair. The development team hit some snags and costs are spiraling. Mom and Dad's investment, it's almost gone. I leaned against my desk, letting that sink in. How much is almost? Like, all of it. He wouldn't meet my eyes. And there might be some other debts? Jesus, Kyson. I pushed away from the desk. How bad? Bad enough that Mom and Dad might lose their... A knock interrupted us. Bridget poked her head in. Sorry, but the health inspector is here for our quarterly check, and the local business association wants to talk about featuring us in their holiday campaign. Be right there. I turned back to Kyson. We'll discuss this later. There might not be a later. The creditors are... Should I tell Mom and Dad about this conversation? His face paled. No, they don't know how bad it is yet. I was hoping maybe you could... Could what? Bail you out? With my cute little bakery money? Sawyer, please, I'm desperate here. I opened the door. So was I every time I needed support. Funny how things turn out, isn't it? Back in the main room, Mom and Dad were still at their table, watching me with new eyes as I guided the health inspector through our spotless kitchen. They saw the respect in his nods, heard the pride in my staff's voices as they explained our procedures. Perfect score again, the inspector announced, signing off on his forms. Keep up the excellent work. Mom stood up as I passed their table. Sawyer, we had no idea. No, you didn't. I straightened a display of fresh croissants. Because you never bothered to look. Your brother, Dad started, will probably be asking for your help again soon. I met their eyes. Maybe this time think carefully about where you invest your trust. They left shortly after, taking their half-eaten pastries with them. Through the window, I watched them talk intensely in the parking lot, probably about Kyson's latest disaster. Ciara appeared at my shoulder. You okay? Better than okay. I picked up a piping bag. We've got orders to fill, a business to run, and success to bake. And Kyson's problems? I started piping delicate roses onto a celebration cake. Let's just say karma comes in all flavors. Some are just sweeter than others. The afternoon sun streamed through our windows, catching on the gold lettering that spelled out Sweet Victory Bakery. Outside, another line was forming for our afternoon tea service. Inside, I was finally serving up the one thing my family had never given me, respect, and it tasted better than any revenge I could have planned. The family ambush came on a Tuesday afternoon, right as I was finishing a batch of macarons. Mom, Dad, and Kyson filed into my office like a funeral procession. with Kaisen looking particularly grave. "We need to talk," Dad said, closing the door. "I'm busy," I kept piping. "We have a corporate event tomorrow." "Please," Mom's voice cracked. "This is important." I set down the piping bag. "More important than my last 3 dinner invitations that you all skipped?" "This is serious," Kaisen stepped forward. "The creditors are threatening legal action. They're talking about putting liens on Mom and Dad's house. And this is my problem because you're the only one who can help," Kaisen exploded. "Your bakery's doing great. Everyone knows it. The local papers, the TV spots. So now my cute little bakery matters?" I crossed my arms. "Now that you need something?" Dad cleared his throat. "We were wrong, okay? We should have supported you from the start." "Should have?" I laughed. "You actively tried to stop me. You wanted me to give my money to him." I pointed at Kaisen for what turned out to be another failure. "I know I messed up," Kaisen said quietly. "But Mom and Dad shouldn't lose their house because of me. They shouldn't have invested money they couldn't afford to lose." "Sawyer," Mom stepped closer, tears in her eyes. "We're not just asking for money. We're asking for your help, your business expertise. You've proven you know what you're doing." "Now I have expertise. 3 months ago I was playing Betty Crocker." A knock interrupted us. Bridget opened the door. "Sorry, but the magazine photographer is here for the Top 30 Under 30 shoot. Tell them I'll be right there." "Top 30 Under 30? Dad's eyebrows shot up. "Regional Business Magazine." I straightened my apron. "Turns out selling cupcakes can be pretty prestigious when you do it right." Kaisen slumped against the wall. "So you won't help?" I studied my brother, really looked at him for the first time in months. His designer clothes were wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. He looked beaten. "I didn't say that." Hope flickered across his face. "Really? I'll think about it. But if, and that's a big if, I help, it'll be on my terms." "Anything," Mom said quickly. "Whatever you want." "I want a family meeting. Tomorrow night, here at the bakery, after closing." I picked up my piping bag again. "I'll lay out my conditions then." "Conditions?" Dad frowned. "Did you think I'd just write a check and forget how you've treated me for years?" I started piping again. "This isn't charity, it's business." "But," Kaisen started. "Tomorrow at 8. I cut him off. "Don't be late, and come hungry. I'm testing new recipes for the fall menu." They filed out, shoulders slumped but with a hint of hope. Through my office window, I watched them cross the parking lot, huddled together like survivors of a storm. Ciara slipped in as they left. "That looked intense." "They want my help with Kaisen's mess." "And you're considering it?" She raised an eyebrow. "After everything?" "I'm considering making them earn it." I finished the last macaron. "Remember that contract template your lawyer sister sent over? The partnership agreement? That's the one. Can you get me a copy? I need to make some modifications." Ciara's eyes widened. "You're not seriously thinking of making Kaisen a partner?" "No." I smiled. "I'm thinking of making him learn what real business looks like, from the ground up." "You're going to make him work here?" "If he wants my help, he's going to learn every aspect of running a successful business, starting with morning prep at 4 a.m. Bridget popped her head in. "The photographer's waiting." "Coming." I stood up, brushing flour from my apron. "Oh, and Bridget, clear the schedule for tomorrow night. We're hosting a very special family dinner." "Should I make your famous revenge cake?" She grinned. "No." I straightened my shoulders. "Make the humble pie, extra humble." As I walked to meet the photographer, I caught my reflection in the bakery window. I saw someone I barely recognized, not the shadow of my younger brother, but a successful business owner about to teach her family a lesson in respect. Tomorrow night, I'd serve up a slice of reality with a side of consequences, and this time they'd have no choice but to take a bite. At exactly 8 o'clock, my family sat around one of our rustic wooden tables, staring at the spread before them. I'd laid out a feast, everything that had made Sweet Victory famous in just 3 months. Before we discuss terms, I said, sliding into my seat, let's talk numbers. How bad is it really, Kyson? He pulled out a crumpled stack of papers. 243,000. That's more than Mom and Dad invested, I noted. There were additional loans. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Personal guarantees. Dad's fork clattered against his plate. Personal guarantees. You said the investment was secured. Can we focus on solutions? Mom pleaded, reaching for a cheese Danish with trembling fingers. That's why we're here. I pulled out 3 manila envelopes. My terms. Kyson grabbed for an envelope, but I held them back. First, eat. Everything on this table represents what actual success looks like. I want you to taste what you've been dismissing. They ate in silence. I watched their faces as they tried each item. The sourdough that took me 6 months to perfect, the croissants that required 3 days of preparation, the signature cake that had won us our first wedding contract. Dad swallowed hard. This is incredible, Sawyer. I know. I slid the envelopes across the table. Now, let's talk about how we fix your mess. They opened the envelopes. Mom gasped. Kyson's face went pale. You want me to work here? He sputtered. As a trainee? 6 months, minimum wage, starting with morning prep at 4 a.m. I tapped the contract. You'll learn every aspect of running a real business. No shortcuts, no excuses. But my tech career is over, I finished, at least until you pay back every penny you owe. And us? Dad asked, reviewing his paper. You'll both take small business management classes at the community college, the same ones I took while working full-time, and you'll spend 1 shift per week here, seeing what your daughter built while you weren't looking. These terms are ridiculous, Kyson protested. More ridiculous than losing your parents' house? I leaned forward. More ridiculous than watching them liquidate their retirement to fund your fantasy? Mom wiped her eyes. We'll do it. Margaret, Dad started. No, Henry, look around. She gestured at the bakery. Our daughter built this while we were too busy enabling Kyson's failures. We owe her this much. There's more, I said, pulling out another document. Once the debt is paid and big if, Kyson completes his training successfully, I'll consider taking him on as a junior partner in a new venture. Kyson's head snapped up. New venture? I'm planning to expand, a second location, maybe a wholesale operation, but only with someone who understands real business, not get-rich-quick schemes. And the money? Dad asked quietly. How much can you? I'll cover the debts. I slid over a cashier's check, but only after all 3 of you sign these contracts. Break them, and I'll demand immediate repayment. Kyson stared at the contract, then at the bustling bakery around us. You really start at 4 a.m.? Sharp. Bridget will train you. She's strict, by the way, doesn't tolerate excuses. And the business classes? Mom asked. Tuesday and Thursday evenings. I've already enrolled you both. Bo, my mentor, teaches some of them. They sat in silence, reading through the terms. Finally, Dad reached for a pen. You're either brilliant or cruel, he said, signing his name. I learned from the best. I watched as Mom and Kyson signed too. Welcome to the real world of business, family. Hope you like the taste of humble pie. When do we start? Kyson asked, already looking uncomfortable. You? Tomorrow morning. Don't be late. Bridget hates that. I gathered the signed contracts. Mom, Dad, your first class is next week. I expect full attendance and completed homework. As they prepared to leave, Mom paused. We really are proud of you, Sawyer. We should have said it sooner. Actions speak louder than words, I replied. Show me with your commitment to these terms. After they left, Kira emerged from the kitchen. Think they'll actually follow through? They better. I looked at the signed contracts. Because this is their last chance to prove they see me as more than just Kyson's big sister. And if they fail, I smiled, sliding the contracts into my safe. Then they'll learn what I already know. Success tastes sweetest when you earn it yourself. Through the window, I watched them drive away, their faces still processing the evening's events. Tomorrow would be Kyson's first 4 a.m. wake-up call and my parents' first step toward understanding what their daughter had achieved. Let the lessons begin. 2 weeks into our new arrangement, I arrived at 3:45 a.m. to find Kyson already waiting outside. Dark circles under his eyes, but on time for once. Bridget's been making me come 15 minutes early, he mumbled, suppressing a yawn. Says if I'm not early, I'm late. Smart woman. I unlocked the door. Ready to learn laminated dough today? I still have burns from yesterday's lesson. Those aren't burns, I laughed. They're badges of honor. Wait until you start working with caramel. Inside, Bridget was already setting up the prep stations. She'd taken to training Kyson with a drill sergeant's precision, and surprisingly, he hadn't quit yet. Your brother's getting better, she whispered as Kyson tied on his apron. He only ruined one batch of brioche yesterday. The morning proceeded smoothly until Bo walked in through the back door, carrying a stack of folders. Quarterly supplier reviews, he announced, then stopped short at the sight of Kyson covered in flour. Well, look who finally joined the real world. You know each other? I asked. Oh, we go way back. Bo set down the folders. Your brother here tried to get me to invest in 3 different schemes. What was the last one? The social media thing for pets? Kyson's face reddened. It was a revolutionary platform. It was a mess, Bo cut in. Just like the dating app and the subscription box service. I tried to warn your parents, but they wouldn't listen. I froze in the middle of scoring croissants. You warned them? Multiple times. Bo crossed his arms. Showed them the market research, the flawed business plans, everything. They said I just didn't understand modern business. The scoring knife clattered onto the counter. They knew his businesses were doomed. They chose to believe what they wanted to believe. Bo shrugged. Just like they chose not to see what was right in front of them with you. Kyson stared at the floor, hands covered in dough. I didn't know you tried to warn them. Of course you didn't. Bo picked up a rolling pin. You were too busy chasing unicorns to see the real opportunities around you. Like this place. He gestured at the bakery. Your sister built this while you were playing entrepreneur. The morning rush prep continued in tense silence. At 6, Mom arrived for her weekly shift, looking more comfortable in her bakery apron than I'd expected. The regulars are starting to know my name, she said proudly, then noticed the atmosphere. What's wrong? Ask Bo, I said quietly. About all those warnings he gave you about Kyson's ventures. Mom's smile faded. Sawyer, we can explain. Can you? I checked the proofing drawer. Can you explain why you ignored professional advice about Kyson, but couldn't even show up to my opening day? We thought, she trailed off. You thought he needed you more, Bo finished. But he needed you to say no, and Sawyer needed you to say yes. The first customers would arrive soon. I turned to Kyson, who hadn't moved from his workstation. Start the coffee prep, I ordered. Mom, get the display cases ready. We'll discuss this later. But as the morning progressed, watching them work, really work, for the first time in their lives, something shifted. Kyson's hands were steady as he worked the espresso machine. Mom's voice was confident as she explained our pastry selection to customers. During the mid-morning lull, Bo pulled me aside. They're learning, he said. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from watching someone else succeed. I'm not sure I can forgive them, I admitted, for knowing the truth and still choosing his failures over my success. Maybe that's not the point. Bo nodded toward Kyson, who was carefully crafting his first latte art. Maybe the point is making sure they never make the same mistake again. The morning rush picked up again, and I watched my family move through the choreography of the bakery. They were different people than they'd been 2 weeks ago, humbler, harder working, finally understanding what it meant to build something real. My phone buzzed. Dad sending his completed homework from his business class, asking for feedback. Another text followed. Your professor said my analysis of Sweet Victory's business model was spot on. I'm starting to understand what you built here. I typed back, understanding is just the beginning. Wait until you see what's next. Because that's the thing about real success. It's not about revenge or proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right over and over until even the doubters have to believe. And watching my family finally learn that lesson, that was sweeter than any revenge I could have planned. 1 month later, I called an emergency family meeting. The bakery was closed, but the lights blazed as I spread documents across our largest table. Is everything okay? Mom asked, sliding into her seat. You sounded serious on the phone. Just wait. I checked my watch. Kyson should be here any... The door chimed. Kyson rushed in, still in his flour-dusted uniform from the morning shift. Sorry I'm late. The wholesale orders took longer than expected. Sit down, I said, pushing a folder toward each of them. We need to talk about what Bo told me. Dad's face fell. Sawyer, we can explain. No. I held up my hand. I've been doing some digging, going through old records, talking to Bo, checking with the business registry. I pulled out a stack of papers. You didn't just ignore his warnings. You mortgaged the house 3 times to fund Kyson's ventures. Mom started crying. You thought he'd succeed eventually, I finished, while actively sabotaging his chances by never making him face consequences. That's not fair, Dad protested. No? I spread out more documents. What about the time you pulled money from my college fund for his first startup? Or when you convinced Aunt Linda to invest her savings in his dating app? Kyson's head snapped up. You used Sawyer's college fund? We paid it back, Dad mumbled. With what? I demanded. The money you should have been saving for retirement? The equity from your house? The loans you're still paying off? The silence was deafening. Outside, the street was dark and empty, but inside, years of secrets were finally coming to light. I had no idea, Kyson whispered, about any of this. Because they protected you from reality. I turned to our parents, and in doing so, they hurt everyone, including you. Mom wiped her eyes. We just wanted to help. I laughed bitterly. Look where that got us. A mountain of debt, a house in jeopardy, and a son who never learned to stand on his own feet. Until now, Kyson said quietly. He pulled out his own papers, daily sales reports from his shifts, customer feedback, even a rough business plan. I've been learning, Sawyer, really learning. These past weeks have shown me what I was doing wrong all along. Show them, I nodded toward our parents. Kyson spread out his work. Every failed venture, I was chasing shortcuts, but here? He gestured around the bakery. Everything takes time, preparation, attention to detail. You can't rush perfection. Dad picked up one of Kyson's reports. You did all this analysis yourself? Bridget's been teaching me. Did you know our morning prep schedule is synchronized to maximize oven efficiency? Or that each recipe is tested 30 times before it goes on the menu? That's what real business looks like, I said, not PowerPoint presentations and empty promises. We were wrong, Mom admitted. About everything. The way we treated you, the way we enabled Kyson. The question is, I leaned forward, what are you going to do about it? Dad straightened in his chair. We'll sell the house, pay off the debts ourselves. No. I pulled out one final document. You're going to let me help, the right way this time. What do you mean? Sweet Victory is expanding. We're opening a second location. I slid the paper across the table. If you all agree to continue your training, to work as hard as you have been, I'll handle the debts. But this time, we do it as a real family business. You'd trust us? Kyson asked. After everything? I trust the people you're becoming, I corrected. The ones who show up at 4 a.m., who do the hard work, who finally understand what it means to build something real. Mom reached for the document with trembling hands. We don't deserve this chance. No, you don't. But that's what family does. Gives chances to those who earn them. And you're finally earning it. Kyson stood up suddenly, walking to the window. The Sweet Victory sign cast a warm glow on his face. I want to run the new location, he said. Not as the boss, as a student. Learning from the ground up, doing it right this time. That's the first smart business decision you've ever made, I smiled. We spent the next hour going over plans, real plans, built on hard work and honest numbers. As my family signed the new agreements, I saw something I'd never seen before. Respect in their eyes, not just for my success, but for the path that led here. Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in proving people wrong, but in helping them become right. The morning of the second location's opening, I stood in the new kitchen, watching Kyson teach our parents the proper way to laminate croissant dough. No, Mom, you need to fold it exactly 3 times, he demonstrated. Remember what Bridget taught us. Precision matters. Like this, Mom's hands were steady as she created perfect layers. Exactly. He beamed. Now you're getting it. Dad checked the proofing drawer temperatures, making notes in the logbook he'd designed himself. His business classes had awakened a passion for systems optimization that none of us had expected. The delivery truck's here, Tiara called from the back door. First wholesale order for the new location. I've got it, Kyson said, wiping his hands. That's my department now. I watched him confidently direct the delivery, checking every item against his meticulous spreadsheet. No shortcuts, no grandiose promises, just honest, careful work. Remember when he couldn't even work the register? Bridget appeared beside me, grinning. Now look at him. Look at all of them, I said. The new location gleamed, ready for its first customers. But more impressive than the shiny equipment and fresh paint was the transformation of my family. Bo walked in through the front door, carrying his signature opening day flowers. Place looks perfect. You ready for the ribbon cutting? Almost. I turned to my family. First, I need to show you something. I led them to the front of the store, where a large frame hung covered by a cloth. With a deep breath, I pulled the fabric away. There, beautifully displayed, was the original Sweet Victory business plan I'd presented at that fateful family dinner. The one they'd dismissed. Beside it hung the newspaper articles, awards, and photos documenting our success. And below them all, a new sign. Sweet Victory South, managed by Kyson Grant. Sawyer, Kyson's voice cracked. You've earned this, I said. All of you have. Mom touched the frame gently. I wish we could go back and do it differently. We can't, I replied, but we can do better going forward. The mayor arrived for the ribbon cutting, along with local press and a crowd of eager customers. As cameras flashed, I handed the scissors to Kyson. This is your moment, I said. You built this location from the ground up, the right way this time. He shook his head. We built it together. He offered me the other handle of the scissors. Family business, remember? As we cut the ribbon together, I saw tears in Dad's eyes. Not the disappointed ones I'd grown used to, but proud ones, finally seeing both his children succeeding on their own terms. The morning rush was intense, but my family moved like a well-oiled machine. Kyson expedited orders with calm efficiency. Mom charmed customers with genuine warmth. Dad's organizational systems kept everything running smoothly. During a brief lull, Bo pulled me aside. You know, revenge would have been easier than redemption. Easier, maybe. I watched Kyson patiently training a new employee, but not sweeter. The day flew by in a blur of customers and congratulations. As we closed up, my family gathered around a table, sharing leftover pastries and stories from the day. Remember my first morning shift? Kyson laughed. I nearly set the kitchen on fire. Remember our first business class presentation? Dad added. We were so nervous. Remember when we thought a bakery was just selling cupcakes? Mom smiled at me. We were wrong about so many things. But you learned, I said. That's what matters. Kyson raised his coffee cup. To sweet victory, both locations. To family, Dad added, and second chances. To doing things the right way, Mom chimed in. I looked around at my family, really looked at them. The arrogance was gone from Kyson's eyes, replaced by earned confidence. The dismissiveness had vanished from my parents' faces, transformed into genuine respect. To all of it, I said, raising my cup. The failures that taught us, the success we built, and the family we became. Through the windows, both sweet victory signs glowed in the evening darkness, beacons of what we'd built together. Not just successful businesses, but a stronger family, forged in the heat of early morning ovens and tempered by hard-earned wisdom. Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in proving your worth to others, but in helping them discover their own. And as I watched my family close up their new bakery, their real achievement, I knew we'd all finally learned that lesson. The revenge I'd planned had turned into redemption, and that was the sweetest success of all.
The microphone feels heavy in my hand as I watch my brother Sullivan deliver his best man speech. My fingers trace the smooth metal, and I can already taste the chaos I'm about to unleash. In less than 20 minutes, I'll shatter this perfect wedding reception into 1,000 glittering pieces. My name is Piper, and I'm about to ruin my brother's wedding. To the happy couple, Sullivan raises his champagne glass, and 200 guests follow suit. The crystal chandeliers catch the light, creating dancing patterns across the ballroom's cream-colored walls. My mother Yara dabs at her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief, the perfect picture of maternal pride. "You okay?" Olive whispers, squeezing my arm under the table. "You look like you're about to throw up." "I'm fine," I lie, gripping the microphone tighter. The truth is, my stomach is doing backflips. 3 months ago, I wouldn't have dreamed of doing this. 3 months ago, I still believed I was really part of this family. "Ladies and gentlemen," the wedding coordinator announces, "we'll now hear from the bride's sister." My mother's head snaps toward me, her perfectly styled hair barely moving. "Piper, darling, I didn't know you prepared a speech." "Oh, I've been preparing this for weeks," I say, standing up. My black bridesmaid dress suddenly feels too tight, too restrictive. Like everything else in this family, it's just for show. As I walk to the center of the dance floor, I catch sight of my father, Francis, busy typing on his phone. Typical. He's probably closing another real estate deal, too important to pay attention to his daughter. Well, not really his daughter. "Hey everyone," I start, my voice shakier than I'd like. "For those who don't know me, I'm Piper, Sullivan's sister." The word sister tastes bitter on my tongue. From the corner of my eye, I spot Terrell, Sullivan's college friend, watching me intently. We've only talked a few times during wedding preparations, but something in his eyes tells me he sees right through me. Growing up in the Warner family was interesting. I pause, letting the word hang in the air. We always looked perfect on the outside. The successful father, the devoted mother, the achieving son, and the artistic daughter. Picture-perfect Christmas cards every year. My Aunt Presley shifts uncomfortably in her seat. She knows what's coming. She's the only one who ever hinted that things weren't what they seemed. Piper, my mother's warning tone carries across the room. Perhaps we should move on to the dancing. No, Mom. I don't think we will. My voice grows stronger. Because 3 months ago I found something interesting while looking for my birth certificate for my passport renewal. The room goes quiet. Even the clinking of glasses stops. I found adoption papers. My hands are shaking, but my voice isn't. Papers that showed that the perfect daughter in those perfect Christmas cards wasn't actually theirs. Sullivan stands up so fast his chair falls backward. Piper, what are you doing? I'm telling the truth, Sully, something our parents never did. I turn to face them directly. 28 years of lies. 28 years of pretending. Did you think I'd never find out? My father finally looks up from his phone. His face has gone pale. My mother's mascara is running now, but not from happy tears anymore. I thought maybe there was a good reason, I continue, my voice cracking. So I asked them, multiple times, but they just kept dismissing me, changing the subject, telling me I was being dramatic. Olive stands up, ready to come to my side, but I shake my head slightly. I need to do this alone. So I decided that if they wouldn't give me the truth, I'd take it for myself. And what better place than here, where everyone can see the perfect family for what it really is. That's enough, my father's voice booms across the room. But for the first time in my life, I'm not backing down. No, it's not enough. It's never been enough. I turn to address the shocked guests. The truth is, I'm adopted. And my parents were so obsessed with maintaining their perfect image that they never told me. They let me believe a lie my entire life. The microphone slips from my trembling fingers, hitting the floor with a loud feedback screech. The sound perfectly matches the chaos erupting around me. Sullivan is yelling, my mother is crying, and my father is storming toward me. But as I stand there in the middle of it all, I feel strangely light, free. The truth is finally out, and there's no taking it back. As guests start whispering and phones come out to capture the drama, I catch Tyrell's eye again. He's not looking at me with shock or judgment, but with something else. Understanding? Admiration? I can't quite tell. What I do know is that this is just the beginning. The perfect family facade has cracked, and through those cracks, I can finally see a way out. 3 months earlier, I sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor, surrounded by scattered papers from the old filing cabinet in Dad's study. My hands trembled as I held the document that would change everything. Olive, I need you to come over, right now. My voice cracked as I spoke into the phone. I'm in the middle of a date, Pipe, she said. Please, I found something, I can't. The tears started falling onto the papers. 20 minutes later, Olive burst through my apartment door, still wearing her date night dress. What's wrong? What happened? I thrust the papers at her, unable to speak. She sat beside me on the floor, her eyes scanning the documents. Holy shit, she whispered. Are these adoption papers from when I was 6 months old? I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. They never told me, Olive, not once in 28 years. Olive wrapped her arms around me. Maybe they were waiting for the right time? The right time? I pulled away. I'm 28. I've graduated college, started a career, dated seriously. When exactly was the right time? Have you talked to them about it? I shook my head. I found these 2 hours ago. I was just looking for my birth certificate for that stupid passport renewal. You need to confront them, Olive said, sorting through the papers. Look, there's more here. Medical records, court documents. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Family dinner tomorrow night. Sullivan and Jessica are announcing their engagement. Wear something nice. I laughed bitterly. Perfect timing. Another family celebration. Are you going to say something at dinner? I don't know. I stood up and paced the room. How do you even start that conversation? Pass the potatoes, and by the way, why did you lie about adopting me? The next evening, I sat at my parents' dining room table, pushing food around my plate while Sullivan and Jessica shared their engagement story. Mom was beaming. Dad was actually paying attention for once, and I felt like I was watching a play where everyone knew their lines except me. Piper, you're quiet tonight, Mom said, reaching for the wine bottle. Everything okay at work? I set down my fork. Actually, I wanted to ask you something. Of course, darling. Why did you never tell me I was adopted? The clatter of Sullivan's fork hitting his plate echoed through the sudden silence. Mom's hand froze mid-pour, red wine dripping onto the white tablecloth. What are you talking about? Dad's voice was sharp. I found the papers yesterday in your study. I pulled out the folded documents from my purse. Were you ever going to tell me? Mom's face went pale. Piper, this isn't the time. When is the time? I slammed my hand on the table. When I'm 30, 40, when I have kids of my own? You're being dramatic, Dad said, standing up. Jessica, Sullivan, I apologize for this disruption. Dramatic? I stood too, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. You've lied to me my entire life. We protected you, Mom said, her voice trembling. We gave you everything. Except the truth. Sullivan cleared his throat. Maybe we should stay out of this, I snapped. Did you know? His silence was answer enough. Great. So everyone knew except me. I grabbed my purse. Thanks for dinner. Piper, wait, Mom called after me. Let's discuss this rationally. I turned at the door. Rationally? Like how you rationally decided to hide this from me for almost 3 decades? As I drove home, my phone kept buzzing with messages. I ignored them all except Olive's. How did it go? Exactly as expected. Denial, deflection, and you're being dramatic. Come over, I have wine and ice cream. At Olive's apartment, curled up on her couch, I finally let myself break down completely. There's something else, I said, wiping my eyes. I overheard Mom on the phone as I was leaving. She was talking to Aunt Presley, saying something about she can't know everything, and some secrets need to stay buried. Olive sat up straighter. What do you think that means? I don't know. I took another spoonful of ice cream. But I'm going to find out. And you know what? Sullivan's wedding would be the perfect time to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of family we really are. Piper, Olive's voice held a warning note. Don't try to talk me out of it. They've had 28 years to tell me the truth. Now they can have their truth served cold, just like this ice cream. As I said the words, I felt something harden inside me. The hurt was still there, but now it had an edge to it. A purpose. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Tyrell. Sullivan gave me your number. Want to grab coffee? Sounds like you could use someone to talk to. I stared at the message, wondering if maybe the universe was finally throwing me a lifeline. The bridal shower was exactly as insufferable as I'd expected. Mom had rented out the garden room at the country club, and everything was draped in blush pink and cream. I sat in the corner, nursing my third mimosa, watching Mom play perfect hostess. Piper, darling, she called across the room. Come help Jessica open her gifts. I'm good here, thanks. I raised my glass in a mock toast. Aunt Presley slid into the chair next to me. You look about as thrilled to be here as I am. At least you're not wearing this ridiculous bridesmaid dress. I tugged at the itchy fabric. Did you know? About what? But her eyes didn't quite meet mine. About me, about the adoption. Presley's fingers tightened around her wine glass. Piper, there are things... Ladies! Mom's voice cut through our conversation. We're about to play bridal bingo. I stood up abruptly. I need some air. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone and texted Tyrell. Save me, I'm dying of pink overload. His response came quickly. Meeting wrapped early. Want to escape? 20 minutes later, I was sliding into the passenger seat of his car, ignoring the flood of texts from Mom. You're my hero, I said, kicking off my heels. Rough day? Tyrell pulled out of the parking lot. Just the usual family fun, Mom pretending everything's fine, Jessica being the perfect bride-to-be, and me drinking mimosas to cope. He glanced at me. Have you talked to Sullivan since I confronted them about the adoption? He's called twice, left messages about working things out as a family. I mimicked my brother's condescending tone. But he knew Tyrell. He knew all along. We ended up at a small coffee shop downtown, far from the country club's manufactured perfection. "So what's your plan?" Tyrell asked, stirring his coffee. "Besides drinking all the mimosas at the wedding." "I'm going to tell everyone the truth, during the reception." He set down his spoon. "Are you sure that's what you want?" "What else can I do? They won't talk to me about it. Mom changes the subject, Dad buries himself in work, and Sullivan—" I trailed off, remembering our last conversation. Maybe there's more to the story? That's what Aunt Presley started to say before Mom interrupted. I leaned forward. "Actually, I've been meaning to ask you something. You've known Sullivan since college. Did he ever mention—" Tyrell shook his head. "Never. But Piper, if you go through with this at the wedding, there's no going back." "I know. But I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of being the only one who doesn't know my own story." My phone buzzed again. "Mom, where are you? Jessica is about to open your gift." "I should go back," I sighed. "Can't have people talking about the absent bridesmaid?" "Let them talk," Tyrell said, but he was already reaching for his keys. Back at the country club, I slipped into the garden room just as Jessica was opening my gift, a crystal vase I'd barely bothered to wrap. "Oh, it's lovely," Jessica exclaimed with practiced enthusiasm. "Piper, where were you?" Mom hissed as I passed her. "Getting coffee with Tyrell." Her eyes narrowed. "Sullivan's friend? I don't think that's appropriate, given the circumstances." "The circumstances being that I found out my whole life is a lie?" "Lower your voice," she snapped. "This is Jessica's day." "It's always someone else's day, isn't it, Mom? When does it get to be my day? When do I get the truth?" Before she could answer, Aunt Presley appeared between us. "Yara, they need you in the kitchen. Something about the cake." Mom hurried off, but Presley caught my arm before I could escape. "Meet me tomorrow," she whispered. "The diner on Oak Street, 9 a.m. There are things you should know." "What things?" But she was already walking away, leaving me with more questions than answers. My phone buzzed one last time. Tyrell. "For what it's worth, I think you're braver than any of them." I looked around the room at my family, Mom directing the catering staff, Jessica surrounded by expensive gifts, the other bridesmaids giggling over wedding details. Everything perfectly orchestrated, perfectly false. 2 months until the wedding. 2 months to uncover whatever secrets Aunt Presley was hiding. 2 months to prepare for the moment I'd tear down this carefully constructed facade. I caught my reflection in one of the room's many mirrors. For the first time in weeks, I didn't see confusion or hurt in my eyes. I saw determination. Tomorrow at the diner, I'd start getting answers. And this time, no one would interrupt. I arrived at the diner 20 minutes early, but Aunt Presley was already there, stirring sugar into her coffee with shaking hands. The morning light caught the silver in her hair, making her look older than I'd ever noticed before. "You came," she said as I slid into the booth. "You said there were things I should know." The waitress appeared with a coffee pot. I nodded, and she filled my cup. "Before I tell you anything," Presley said, "you need to understand that your parents thought they were protecting you." "From what?" She reached into her purse and pulled out a yellowed envelope. "From this." I opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten letter, dated 28 years ago. "Dear Yara and Francis," I read aloud. "I know this is an impossible situation, but please take care of my baby girl. She deserves better than what I can give her. All I ask is that you never tell her about me. She can't know about the darkness she came from. Love, Marie." My hands started shaking. "Marie, my birth mother?" Presley nodded. "Your parents weren't just random adoptive parents, Piper. Marie she was my best friend." The bell above the diner door chimed. I looked up to see Tyrell walking in, and my heart skipped. He spotted us and started to turn away, but I waved him over. "Is this a bad time?" he asked. "No," I said quickly. "Stay. Please." Presley waited until Tyrell was seated beside me before continuing. "Marie was brilliant, but troubled. She struggled with addiction, with abusive relationships. When she found out she was pregnant with you, she knew she couldn't keep you safe. So she gave me to her best friend's brother?" I looked at Presley. Dad is your brother. Yes. Marie knew you'd be safe with them. They had money, stability, everything she couldn't provide. But why keep it a secret? Why not tell me when I was old enough to understand? Presley's eyes filled with tears. Because Marie made them promise, and because she's still alive, Piper. She's in a long-term care facility. She overdosed when you were 2 years old. The damage. She never fully recovered. The diner suddenly felt too small, too hot. Tyrell's hand found mine under the table. Where? My voice cracked. Where is she? Sunset Grove Care Center, about an hour from here. Presley pulled out another piece of paper. This is her room number, but Piper, she's not really there anymore, not mentally. I stood up so fast my coffee cup rattled. I need some air. Outside, I leaned against the brick wall, breathing hard. Tyrell followed me out. You okay? My birth mother is alive. She's been alive this whole time, less than an hour away. I turned to face him. Why didn't they tell me? Even if she made them promise, I had a right to know. Maybe they thought they were sparing you pain. By lying? By letting me believe I was their biological daughter? I pushed off from the wall. I'm going to see her. Now? Right now. Are you coming? He didn't hesitate. Of course. Back inside, Presley was still sitting in the booth, clutching her coffee cup. I'm going to see her, I announced. Piper, wait. No more waiting. No more secrets. I grabbed the paper with the room number. You can either tell Mom and Dad or I will, but I'm done being kept in the dark. In Tyrell's car, I finally let myself cry. He drove in silence, one hand on the wheel, the other holding mine. My phone started ringing. Mom's face flashed on the screen. Presley told them, I said, declining the call. What are you going to do when you get there? I don't know, but I need to see her. I need to see where I came from. The phone rang again. This time it was Sullivan. Little sister, what the hell are you doing? Don't call me that, I snapped. You lost that right when I found out you've been lying to me my entire life. Mom and Dad are freaking out. They're worried you'll do something stupid. Like what? Tell the truth? Because that's exactly what I'm planning to do at your wedding. Piper, please. I hung up and turned off my phone. They're all so worried about their perfect image, I said to Tyrell. Nobody's worried about what this is doing to me. I am, he said quietly. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw nothing but sincerity in his eyes. The care center's sign appeared ahead of us. My heart started racing. Ready? Tyrell asked. No, I admitted, but I'm going in anyway. 28 years of lies were about to end. Whatever I found inside that building, at least it would be the truth. Sunset Grove Care Center smelled like disinfectant and sadness. A nurse led us down a pale green hallway, her shoes squeaking against the linoleum floor. Room 214, she said, stopping at a door decorated with faded paper flowers. Just don't expect too much interaction. Marie hasn't spoken in years. My hand trembled on the doorknob. Tyrell squeezed my shoulder. Want me to wait out here? I shook my head. Stay, please. The room was small but bright, with sunlight streaming through a large window. And there, in a wheelchair by the window, sat my birth mother. Her gray-streaked hair hung loose around her shoulders, and her vacant eyes stared at something only she could see. Marie? My voice came out as a whisper. I'm Piper. No response, not even a flicker of recognition. Your daughter. The nurse touched my arm gently. She's been like this since the overdose. The doctors say her brain was deprived of oxygen for too long. I moved closer, studying her face for any trace of myself. We had the same nose, I realized, the same high cheekbones. Can I reached for her hand. Of course, the nurse said. I'll give you some time. Marie's hand was warm but limp in mine. I sank into the chair beside her wheelchair while Tyrell leaned against the wall, a silent guardian. I found out about you, I said. About the adoption. They never told me, but I found the papers. Tears started falling. I wish you could tell me why. Why you made them promise to keep it secret. The door burst open. Mom stood there, breathless, with Dad right behind her. "Piper, stop this right now," Dad commanded. I didn't let go of Marie's hand. "Stop what? Finally meeting my real mother?" "We are your real parents," Mom said, stepping into the room. "We raised you. We loved you." "You lied to me." My voice rose, and Marie's hand twitched in mine. "My entire life has been a lie, and I had to find out by accident." "Keep your voice down," Dad hissed. "This is a care facility." "Oh, right. We wouldn't want to make a scene. That's what this is all about, isn't it? Keeping up appearances?" Tyrell pushed off from the wall. "Maybe we should take this outside." "No," I said firmly. "I'm staying with my mother." "Piper," Mom's voice cracked. "Please try to understand. We wanted to protect you." "From what? From knowing that my birth mother loved me enough to give me up? From knowing that she's been here all this time, alive? From this!" Dad gestured at Marie. "From seeing her like this. From knowing that addiction destroyed her. That wasn't your choice to make." Marie's hand suddenly gripped mine, hard. Her eyes were still unfocused, but her fingers held on like she was drowning. "She's responding to you," the nurse said from the doorway. That's unusual." Mom stepped forward, reaching for me, but I pulled away. Don't. I turned back to Marie. "I'm getting married in 2 weeks," I told her. "Well, not me, my brother, the son they actually gave birth to. I'm supposed to stand there and pretend we're one big happy family." "Piper, enough," Dad warned. "No, it's not enough. It will never be enough until everyone knows the truth." I stood up, carefully releasing Marie's hand. "And they will know. At the wedding, everyone will know exactly what kind of family we really are." "You wouldn't dare," Mom whispered. "Watch me." I turned to leave, but Tyrell caught my arm. "Piper, look." Marie was moving her lips, no sound coming out, but her eyes were fixed on me for the first time. "What is she saying?" I asked the nurse. She moved closer, watching Marie's lips. I think she's saying, sorry." The word hit me like a physical blow. All these years, all these lies, and the only person who apologized was the one who couldn't even speak. "I'll be back," I promised Marie, with or without their permission. In the hallway, Mom tried one last time. "Please don't do this to Sullivan, to us." "Do what? Tell the truth? Someone has to." I walked away, Tyrell beside me, leaving my parents standing in that sterile hallway with their perfect family facade crumbling around them. In the car, I finally turned my phone back on. Dozens of messages from Sullivan, from Jessica, from family friends. The latest was from Olive. "Your mom just called me crying. What happened?" "The truth happened," I texted back, "and in 2 weeks everyone else will know it too." Tyrell started the car. "Where to?" I looked back at the care center, at the window I knew was Marie's. Somewhere I can practice my wedding speech. The time for secrets was over. The truth was all I had left, and I was going to wield it like a weapon. The wedding reception was in full swing when I finally stood up, champagne glass in one hand, microphone in the other. The events of my revelation from earlier still hung heavy in the air, but I wasn't done, not by a long shot. "I'd like to make another toast," I announced. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to me. Mom half rose from her seat, but Dad pulled her back down. "Piper, please," Sullivan begged from the head table. "Haven't you done enough?" "Actually, no." I moved to the center of the dance floor. "You see, after I discovered I was adopted, I did some digging, and what I found was so much worse than just a hidden adoption." Olive stood up. "Piper, maybe we should—" "My birth mother is alive," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "She's in a care facility less than an hour from here. She's been there for 26 years, ever since an overdose left her brain damaged. And everyone knew. Everyone except me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out recording the drama unfolding. "But here's the best part." I turned to face my parents directly. "She was Aunt Presley's best friend. This wasn't some random adoption. You knew her. You knew exactly who she was, and you kept her existence from me my entire life." "That's enough." Dad's voice boomed across the room. "No, it's not, because guess what I found yesterday when I went to see her? I pulled a folded paper from my dress. The nurses gave me access to her personal effects, and I found this. Mom's face went white. Piper, don't. It's a letter, written right before her overdose. My hands shook as I unfolded it. Dear Yara and Francis, I know you think keeping Piper from me is the right thing to do, but she's my daughter. She deserves to know her mother, even with all my flaws. Please don't cut me out of her life completely. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Even the wedding photographers had stopped clicking their cameras. She wrote this 2 days before she overdosed, I said, my voice cracking. 2 days before the incident that left her unable to speak, to think clearly, to tell me herself who she was. And you knew. You all knew. Jessica was crying now, clutching Sullivan's arm. He just stared at me, shock written across his face. So here's to family secrets, I raised my glass. Here's to lies told in the name of protection. Here's to the perfect family image that meant more than the truth. I tried to stop her. Aunt Presley's voice cut through the tension. She stood up, tears streaming down her face. Marie was my best friend, and I tried to convince them to tell you, but they were so afraid. Afraid of what? I demanded. Afraid I'd find out my birth mother was an addict? Afraid it would ruin your country club reputation? We were afraid you'd end up like her, Mom shouted, finally breaking. We were afraid you'd go looking for her, try to help her, and get pulled into that world. That wasn't your choice to make. Terrell appeared at my side, gently taking the microphone. Maybe we should take a break. No. I pulled away from him. Everyone needs to hear this. Everyone needs to know that the perfect Warner family is built on lies, that they let a woman waste away in a care facility, alone, while keeping her daughter in the dark. You want the truth? Dad stood up, his face red with anger. The truth is we gave you everything. A good home, education, opportunities. Everything Marie couldn't provide. Except honesty. I threw my champagne glass. It shattered against the wall, sending guests scrambling. Except the basic dignity of knowing who I really am. Piper, Terrell's voice was soft but firm, you've made your point. I looked around the room. Some guests were filming on their phones, others were whispering behind their hands. Sullivan had his head in his hands while Jessica sobbed quietly beside him. You're right, I said, suddenly feeling drained. I have made my point, and now everyone knows exactly what kind of family we are. I turned to leave, but Mom's voice stopped me. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. I turned back one last time. Don't worry, Mom. I wouldn't want to tarnish your perfect family image any more than I already have. Terrell followed me out into the night air. Behind us, I could hear the chaos erupting in the reception hall. Feel better? He asked. No, I admitted. But at least now everyone knows the truth. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I was at the wedding. I knew Marie. There's more to the story than what you know. Meet me tomorrow? I showed Tyrell the message. Are you going to go? I looked back at the reception hall, at the family I thought I knew, at the lies finally exposed to the light. Yes, I said. I need to know everything. The morning after the wedding, I sat in a quiet corner of a local cafe, waiting for the mysterious texter. Tyrell insisted on coming with me, sitting at a nearby table pretending to work on his laptop. A woman in her 50s approached my table. Piper? Yes? I'm Rachel. I was Marie's nurse, before the overdose. My heart skipped. Please, sit. Rachel settled across from me, placing an old photo album on the table. I saw your speech last night. I was catering the wedding. You knew my birth mother? I was there the night she overdosed. Rachel's fingers traced the album's worn cover. But there's something you need to know. It wasn't an accident. The cafe suddenly felt too quiet, too still. What do you mean? Marie was doing better. She'd been clean for months. She was fighting for you, trying to prove she could be in your life. Rachel opened the album. Look. The first photo showed a younger version of the woman I'd seen in the care facility. Marie was smiling, holding a baby, holding me. Your parents had temporary custody while Marie went through rehab. She was making progress following all the court requirements. Rachel turned the page. Then one night, she called me in a panic, said she'd found something that your parents were planning to take you away permanently. Terrell had abandoned his pretense of working and moved closer. The next day, they found her unconscious in her apartment. Everyone assumed she'd relapsed, but Rachel pulled out an envelope. She left this with me the night before, made me promise to keep it safe. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter and what looked like legal documents. "Dear Rachel," I read aloud. "If anything happens to me, keep these safe. Francis and Yara are trying to declare me an unfit mother. They've falsified documents about my recovery. They're going to take my baby forever. I have proof, but they know I know. I'm scared. If something happens to me, make sure Piper learns the truth someday." "That's impossible," I whispered. "They wouldn't." The next morning she was found with enough heroin in her system to kill 3 people. Marie never used heroin. She was afraid of needles. Tyrell's hand found mine under the table. "Are you saying—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "I'm saying your parents wanted you badly enough to do whatever it took." Rachel's voice was gentle. "The police investigated briefly, but Francis had connections. The case was closed as an accidental overdose. Does Aunt Presley know?" "She suspected, I think, but she could never prove anything." My phone buzzed. Sullivan. "Mom's in the hospital. Anxiety attack after your stunt last night. Hope you're happy." I ignored it, focusing on the documents Rachel had brought. Court papers, medical records, letters between my parents' lawyer and the adoption agency. "They orchestrated the whole thing," I said numbly. "They made sure she'd never be able to claim me." "Marie loved you, Piper. She fought for you until she couldn't fight anymore." Terrell spoke up. "Have you shown these documents to anyone else?" Rachel shook her head. "I was afraid. Francis is a powerful man. Not powerful enough to hide from this." I gathered the documents. "Not anymore." My phone buzzed again. "Aunt Presley. We need to talk. There's something you should know about the night Marie overdosed." "I have to go," I told Rachel. "But thank you for keeping these safe, for telling me the truth." Outside, Tyrell grabbed my arm. "What are you going to do?" "First, I'm going to meet Presley. Then I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of people my parents really are." "Piper, think about this. If what Rachel said is true, your parents might have been involved in my birth mother's attempted murder." "Yeah, I got that." I pulled out my phone and dialed Olive's number. "Hey, remember that investigative reporter you dated last year? Is he still interested in family scandal stories?" "Piper, slow down. What's happening?" "The truth, Olive. The whole truth is finally coming out." Another text from Sullivan. "Mom's asking for you. Please come to the hospital." I showed Tyrell the message. "Are you going to go?" "Yes," I said, hailing a cab. "But not to make peace. I'm going to look them in the eyes and ask them if they really tried to kill my birth mother." Terrell climbed in beside me. "I'm coming with you." As the cab pulled away, I looked at the photo of Marie holding me as a baby. Her smile was bright, hopeful. She had no idea what was coming. "I'm going to make this right," I whispered to the photo. "I promise." My phone buzzed one last time. An unknown number. "Be careful who you trust. Some secrets are buried deep for a reason." The hospital loomed ahead, and with it, the final confrontation I never expected. It was time to learn just how far my parents had gone to create their perfect family. The hospital room was quiet, except for the steady beep of monitors. Mom lay in bed, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Dad sat beside her, and Aunt Presley stood by the window. "Before anyone says anything," I announced, holding up the documents, "I know what really happened to Marie." Dad's face went pale. "Whatever you think you know." "I know you falsified documents. I know you made sure she'd never get custody, and I know about the heroin." Mom started crying. "We did it for you." "No," my voice was steel. "You did it for yourselves. You wanted the perfect family, and Marie was in your way." "You don't understand," Dad stood up. "She was unstable, dangerous. She was getting better. I slammed the documents down. She was fighting for me, and you couldn't stand it. Tell her, Presley said suddenly. Tell her the truth, Francis, or I will. Dad sank back into his chair. We didn't mean for her to die. What did you do? My heart was pounding. We paid someone, Mom whispered, to plant the drugs, to make it look like a relapse. We just wanted her to fail the custody hearing. But something went wrong, Presley continued. The person we hired, he used too much. By the time they found her, we never meant, Dad's voice cracked. We just wanted you to be ours. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Terrell steadied me as I swayed. You tried to kill my mother. No, Mom reached for me. We just wanted to discredit her. We didn't know. I've already called the police, I said quietly. They're on their way, and I've sent copies of everything to every major news outlet in the state. Dad lunged for his phone, but Tyrell blocked him. It's done, I continued. Your perfect family image is over, and Marie finally gets justice. You'll destroy this family, Mom sobbed. You destroyed it 28 years ago when you decided your reputation was worth more than a woman's life. The door opened. 2 police officers entered, followed by a detective. Francis and Yara? The detective asked. We need to ask you some questions about the night of March 15th, 28 years ago. As they led my parents away, Presley touched my arm. I should have spoken up sooner. I was a coward. Yes, you were. I pulled away from her. But at least you finally told the truth. Outside the hospital, reporters were already gathering. The story was breaking. Prominent family's dark secret, attempted murder and cover-up. What now? Tyrell asked. Now I go see Marie. She deserves to know her truth is finally being heard. At Sunset Grove, Marie was sitting by the window as always. But this time, when I took her hand, her eyes met mine. It's over, I told her. They can't hurt you anymore. They can't hurt us anymore. Her fingers tightened around mine, and for a moment I saw a flash of the woman from the photos, strong, determined, fighting for her daughter. I'm going to visit you every week, I promised. We have 28 years to make up for. My phone buzzed. Olive. Just saw the news. You okay? No, I texted back, but I will be. Sullivan called next. The police are questioning Jessica's family about canceling the wedding. This is a nightmare. The nightmare was living a lie our entire lives, I replied and hung up. Terrell wrapped his arms around me as we left the care facility. You did it. You found your truth. Our truth, I corrected, looking back at Marie's window. Hers and mine. The evening news was already running the story. My parents' mugshots, Marie's old photos, the documents proving their conspiracy. The perfect family facade had finally shattered completely. But as I watched the sun set over the care facility, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. The truth had cost me the family I thought I had, but it had given me something more valuable, the family I was meant to have all along. Want to get coffee? Tyrell asked. Actually, I smiled, taking his hand. I want to tell my mother about my day. We walked back into the care facility, leaving behind the cameras, the reporters, and the wreckage of carefully constructed lies. Ahead of me was something better than perfection, reality, with all its messy, beautiful truth. Marie was waiting, and this time, when I started talking, I swore I saw her smile.
The Skyline Lounge was booked. Confetti cannons, the good ones, were ordered after 7 years of grinding, of late nights fueled by lukewarm coffee and the sheer, bloody-minded refusal to quit. I was finally getting my party. My name is Harper, and I'd just been promoted to Senior Marketing Director. This wasn't just a step up, it was a leap, the kind that changes your trajectory, the kind that deserved champagne and a ridiculously expensive dress. I was practically vibrating with excitement, humming as I scrolled through catering options on my laptop, picturing the view from the lounge, the city lights twinkling below. The doorbell chimed. A cheerful, unexpected sound. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it to find Mom, Dad, and my sister Bella huddled on my doorstep like a delegation of doom. Mom's smile was a little too bright, Dad's expression carefully neutral, and Bella was clutching a piece of paper to her chest, her lower lip trembling. Oh, here we go. Harper, darling, Mom chirped, sweeping past me into my small living room. We have such wonderful news. Dad followed, giving me a brief, awkward pat on the shoulder. Good to see you, sport. Bella trailed in last, eyes wide and suspiciously moist. She looked like a startled fawn about to burst into tears if someone so much as breathed too loudly. What's going on? I asked, already feeling that familiar knot tighten in my stomach, the one that always appeared before my achievements were about to be downsized or dismissed entirely. Bella, sweetie, show Harper your amazing news, Mom prompted, beaming at her like she'd just cured world hunger. Bella held out the paper with a flourish that was entirely unearned by its contents. It was a printed certificate, the kind you get from those free online things. I, um, I completed a quiz, she mumbled, her voice barely a whisper. It's called The Colorful World of Digital Collages. I got a certificate of completion. I stared at the certificate. It had clip art of badly rendered flowers. Isn't that just fantastic? Mom gushed, her eyes flicking to me, assessing my reaction. She found something she's really passionate about. We're so proud of her. That's great, Bella, I managed, trying to inject some enthusiasm into my voice. It felt like wading through treacle. Mom sat on my sofa, patting the cushion beside her. Harper, dear, come sit. We need to talk. It's about your party. I sat, the springs creaking ominously. Here it comes. Now, don't get upset, Mom began, her voice softening into that gentle, coercive tone she'd perfected over years. But with Bella's wonderful news, well, she just got this certificate, and it's such a boost for her, you know? She's been feeling a bit lost. Her eyes pleaded with me. Your big celebration, all those people, that fancy lounge, it might just make her feel a little small, overshadowed. Bella sniffled on cue, her eyes welling up. I wouldn't want to be a bother, she whispered, though her entire presence screamed bother. Of course you're not a bother, sweet pea, Mom cooed, stroking Bella's hair. She turned back to me. You know how sensitive she is, Harper. We wouldn't want to dim her little light, would we? Especially now when she's finally found a spark. We were hoping, well, we were hoping you'd be the bigger person. Just this once. And postpone your party. For Bella. It would mean the world to her. To all of us. Postpone? I repeated, the word flat and lifeless. The confetti cannons in my mind deflated with a sad hiss. Dad, who had been examining a bookshelf with intense interest, finally spoke. Your mother's right, Harper. It would mean a lot to Bella. She needs this encouragement. Years of this. My valedictorian speech, the one I'd poured my heart into, cut short at dinner because Bella was devastated over a B in pottery. Let's not make a fuss tonight, Harper, Dad had said. Bella's upset. My first real job offer, the one that got me out of their house, celebrated with a lukewarm cup of tea because Bella had a stressful week deciding which reality show to binge watch. Each memory was a small, sharp stone in my shoe. The rage, hot and familiar, simmered just beneath the surface. I could feel my smile becoming a brittle mask. You're absolutely right, Mom, I said, the words tasting like ash. My voice was surprisingly steady. Bella's achievement is special. Of course, I'll postpone. Bella's face transformed. The tears vanished, replaced by a radiant, triumphant beam. Oh, Harper, thank you. You're the best sister ever. She actually clapped her hands. Mom sighed with exaggerated relief, patting my arm. That's my girl. Always so understanding, so mature. Dad nodded, a satisfied look on his face. Good. That's settled then. We knew you'd do the right thing. They were already on their feet, Mom chattering about a small family dinner to celebrate Bella's milestone, probably at my expense. We can all go out to that little Italian place Bella likes. I walked them to the door, the forced smile still plastered on my face. As they stepped into the hallway, their voices already turning to plans for Bella's big night. Mom's voice drifted back. She's always so understanding, isn't she, Nelson? I closed the door gently, my hand resting on the cool metal of the knob. The echo of their relief hung in the air. Understanding. Right. They had no idea. They had absolutely no idea what postponed was about to mean. The first call I made was to the Skyline Lounge. Hi, yes, this is Harper. I have a booking for the 15th for a private party. I paused, picturing the manager's disappointed face. Something's come up, a rather exciting corporate development, actually. I need to cancel the personal booking, but I'd like to keep the deposit on file. We're looking at a much larger corporate event in the near future, and your venue is top of our list. The manager, after a moment of surprise, was all smooth efficiency. Of course, Ms. Harper, we can certainly do that. We look forward to hearing about your corporate event. One hurdle down, the deposit was safe when I relayed the change of plans to Mom over the phone later that evening, carefully omitting the corporate event part and sticking to a vague postponement due to unforeseen circumstances. She was effusive. Oh, Harper, that's so thoughtful of you. Truly selfless, she said, her voice dripping with saccharine approval. Bella will be so pleased you're taking her feelings into account. She's already buzzing about her little celebration dinner. She's thinking next Friday. You'll be there, of course? Of course, Mom, I said, my teeth gritted. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Bella in the background yelled, Harper, can you help me pick an outfit? It has to be perfect for my certificate dinner. The next day, Aunt Haley called. Her calls were usually reserved for dispensing unsolicited advice or thinly veiled criticisms. Today was no exception. Harper, dear, she began, her voice like gravel rolling downhill. Your mother told me about you postponing your little get-together. Very sensible. And so good of you to support Bella. She needs these little boosts, you know. That girl has a real artistic flair if only she'd apply herself. Perhaps you could help her build a portfolio for these digital collages of hers. Show her how to present herself professionally. I'll keep that in mind, Aunt Haley, I said, my voice dangerously calm. The condescension was a physical weight, a portfolio for a free online quiz certificate. Right. That evening, I met Livia at O'Malley's. The bar was noisy, a welcome contrast to the simmering resentment I'd been bottling up. Livia, my best friend and colleague, took one look at my face as I slid into the booth. Okay, spill, she said, pushing a glass of wine towards me. You look like you're about to spontaneously combust. Was it the parental units again? Bella's latest achievement? I recounted the entire saga, the certificate, the tearful plea, Mom's manipulative sweetness, Dad's passive agreement, Aunt Haley's helpful suggestions. Livia listened, her expression shifting from amusement to outrage. By the time I finished, her knuckles were white around her wine glass. Are you kidding me? She finally exploded, her voice low but fierce. A digital collage quiz, and they made you postpone your senior director party for that? Harper, they are actively trying to shrink you. They want you to play small so Bella can feel like a giant in comparison. Don't you dare let them. Her anger was a bomb, a validation of the fury I'd been suppressing. I know, I said, taking a large gulp of wine. I know, but what am I supposed to do? Every time I have something, anything, they find a way to make it about Bella. You fight back, Livia said, leaning forward, not by arguing with them. They'll just guilt trip you into oblivion. You do something so big, so undeniably you that they can't ignore it, can't diminish it, can't make it about anyone else. We sat in silence for a moment, the bar's cacophony fading into the background. Livia's words echoed in my head. Something so big. That night, sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned, Livia's words replaying. Then, an idea, faint at first, began to take shape. Not just a party, not just a celebration for me. Something more, something that would make a statement. I got out of bed, went to my laptop, and started typing. Charity events, women's empowerment initiatives, corporate philanthropy. The screen glowed in the dark room. My fingers flew across the keyboard. The concept of a Women in Leadership Gala began to form, a high-profile event. It would celebrate female achievement, launch a mentorship program I'd been dreaming about for years, and yes, it would also, quite publicly, celebrate my promotion. It would be everything my family tried to make my original party not be. Significant, impactful, and undeniably mine. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was audacious. This was terrifying. This was perfect. I started drafting an email. To August Daniels, Head of Marketing. Subject: Proposal, Turner Corp, Women in Leadership Gala and Mentorship Initiative. Dear August, I hope this email finds you well. Following my recent promotion to Senior Marketing Director, I've been considering impactful ways to leverage this milestone, not just for personal celebration, but for broader company benefit and community engagement. I outlined the gala, the fundraising aspect for a new mentorship program aimed at supporting emerging female talent within our company and the wider community. I positioned my promotion as the natural celebratory anchor for such an initiative. It was bold, it was risky. My finger hovered over the send button. This was either career suicide or the beginning of something incredible. I took a deep breath and clicked. The email to August felt like launching a message in a bottle into a vast, indifferent ocean. I spent the next morning jumping at every notification, convinced each one was either a summons to his office for a dressing down, or worse, a curt dismissal of my overly ambitious idea. Just before lunch, his assistant called. "Harper, Mr. Daniels would like to see you in his office. How's 10 minutes?" My stomach did a nervous flip. 10 minutes is perfect. Thanks. I walked down the hall, my sensible heels clicking a rhythm of impending doom on the polished floor. I smoothed down my skirt, took a deep breath, and knocked on his open door. "Harper, come in, sit down," August said, gesturing to one of the plush chairs opposite his expansive desk. He wasn't smiling, but he didn't look angry either. He looked thoughtful. My email was open on his large monitor. "So," he began, leaning back in his chair, steepling his fingers, "a Women in Leadership Gala." I braced myself. "Yes, sir. I know it's a bit unconventional, tying it to a promotion, but I genuinely believe it could be a powerful initiative for—" "Harper," he interrupted, a ghost of a smile finally appearing. "This isn't just a party idea. This is a brilliant branding and CSR opportunity. Your promotion, as you rightly pointed out, is the perfect launch pad. It's authentic. It's timely." I blinked, momentarily stunned. "Sir?" "I like it," he said, nodding. "I like it a lot. The mentorship program? Excellent. The fundraising aspect? Even better. This has real potential, Harper. Potential for significant positive PR, for boosting employee morale, for positioning Turner Corp as a forward-thinking leader in supporting women." He leaned forward. "I'm not just approving this, Harper. I'm allocating a significant company budget to it. I want you to lead this. Consider it your first major project as Senior Marketing Director. You have the vision. I trust you to execute it." I was speechless. A budget? Me? Leading it? This was beyond anything I'd dared to hope for. "Thank you, August," I finally managed, my voice a little shaky. "Thank you so much. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," he said. "Now, about that venue you mentioned, the Skyline Lounge, good choice for a personal party. But for this, we need to think bigger, much bigger. Get me a proposal for the top 3 venues in the city that can handle a high-profile gala. And a budget breakdown. Let's aim for something truly spectacular." My original party deposit, the one I'd carefully preserved, suddenly felt like seed money for an empire. The next few weeks were a blur. My new director duties were demanding enough, but now I was also secretly orchestrating a massive corporate event. Lunch breaks were spent scouting venues, evenings were dedicated to drafting sponsorship packages, and weekends involved hushed, excited calls with Livia, who had gleefully appointed herself my unofficial deputy gala chair. "The grand ballroom at the Astoria?" Livia whispered into the phone one Saturday morning. "Harper, that place is legendary. Can we actually afford it?" August said spectacular, I reminded her, a thrill coursing through me. "And with the corporate sponsorship tier I've designed, I think we can." My family, of course, noticed my increased workload. "You're working so hard, dear," Mom said during one of our brief phone calls. "All those extra hours. Are you sure you're not just burying your disappointment about your party and work? It's okay to be sad, you know." "I'm fine, Mom," I said, scrolling through a list of potential florists. "Just busy with a new project." "A new project?" Bella piped up from the background. "Is it fun? Harper, when you have a minute, I was wondering if you could help me make a portfolio for my collage certificate. Aunt Haley said I should. Maybe you could design a cover page for me with your marketing skills." "I'll see what I can do, Bella," I said, my eye catching an email from a renowned event designer. "Gotta go. Talk soon." The irony wasn't lost on me. They thought I was moping, hiding from the world. In reality, I was building something bigger and brighter than they could possibly imagine. The biggest long shot was Elizabeth Wagner, CEO of a global tech firm, a woman who'd shattered glass ceilings with a sledgehammer, an icon I'd admired from afar for years. Asking her to be the keynote speaker felt like asking for the moon, but August had encouraged me to aim high. The worst she can say is no, Harper. So I drafted the most persuasive, heartfelt invitation I could muster, outlining the gala's mission, the mentorship program, and why her presence would be transformative. I hit send, expecting nothing but silence. 3 days later, an email landed in my inbox. The subject line read, Re-invitation, Women in Leadership Gala. My breath hitched. I clicked it open. Ms. Harper, thank you for your inspiring invitation. The vision for your gala and the mentorship program resonates deeply with me. I would be honored to serve as your keynote speaker. Sincerely, Elizabeth Wagner. My heart didn't just stop. It felt like it did a series of acrobatic flips. I reread the email 3 times, my hands trembling. Elizabeth Wagner. The Elizabeth Wagner. This wasn't just real anymore. This was monumental. The official announcement of the Turner Corp Women in Leadership Gala hit the company intranet like a firework. My name was prominent. Chaired by newly promoted Senior Marketing Director Harper, this inaugural event will celebrate female achievement and launch a groundbreaking mentorship program. Almost immediately, the RSVPs started flooding in. Executives from other departments, city council members, even a few local celebrities Livia had managed to charm onto the guest list. The buzz wasn't confined to the office. Aunt Haley, predictably, was the first to catch wind of it outside the family's immediate, self-absorbed bubble. She called Mom, her voice a potent mix of suspicion and intrigue. "Nancy, did you hear?" I could almost picture her, phone clutched to her ear, stirring a pot of something judgmental. "Harper's involved in some massive corporate to-do. The email went around my bridge club. Apparently Margaret's husband works at Turner Corp. Sounds very fancy. Very public. For just a work thing, you know." Mom called me a few hours later, her tone laced with confusion. "Harper, darling, Haley was just on the phone. This gala? She said it's a very big deal. Is it terribly stressful? You should be resting after well, after you so kindly postponed your own celebration. You're not overdoing it, are you?" "It's a significant project, Mom," I said, keeping my voice even. "But it's exciting. August is very supportive." "August?" she repeated, as if the name of my boss, the head of marketing for a major corporation, was a foreign concept. "Oh, well, as long as you're not pushing yourself too hard." Bella, meanwhile, was oblivious to anything beyond her own upcoming certificate celebration dinner. She cornered me one evening when I made the mistake of stopping by my parents' house to pick up some old files. "Harper!" she exclaimed, holding up 2 nearly identical beige cardigans. "Which one do you think for my dinner? And you haven't forgotten, have you? Next Friday. You seem so busy with your work thing lately. You're always on your phone." "I'm managing, Bella," I said, resisting the urge to point out that my work thing was slightly more complex than choosing a cardigan. "And no, I haven't forgotten." Then the first real hiccup. We had booked Artisan Eats, a high-end, well-respected catering company, weeks ago. Contract signed, deposit paid. 2 weeks before the gala, I got a curt email. "Due to an unforeseen internal scheduling conflict, a double booking, we regret to inform you that Artisan Eats will be unable to fulfill our catering obligations for your event on the 15th. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience." "Inconvenience?" I practically yelled at my laptop screen. "They call this an inconvenience?" Livia was in my office within minutes. "Double booking? That sounds fishy. Artisan Eats is known for being meticulous." "Tell me about it," I fumed, already dialing their number. Their apologies were profuse but unhelpful. No explanation. Just deeply sorry. Livia, ever the pragmatist, started working her network. "Let me make some calls," she said, her expression grim. "Something isn't right here." 2 days later, after a frantic scramble that involved me nearly hyperventilating into a paper bag, Livia stormed back into my office, her eyes blazing. "You are not going to believe this," she said, shutting the door behind her. "I have a friend, Sarah, who used to do freelance work for Artisan Eats. She still has contacts there." She nosed around. And? I prompted, my stomach churning. And, Livia continued, it turns out that a distant cousin of your Aunt Haley, a guy named Barry who owns Barry's Budget Bites, or some other equally unappetizing catering business, has been making calls. He's been spreading rumors that our gala is disorganized, that we're in over our heads, that we might not even be able to pay our vendors. He specifically mentioned Artisan Eats should be wary. I stared at her, aghast. Aunt Haley's cousin? Barry? Are you serious? Deadly, Livia confirmed. Sarah said the manager at Artisan Eats got spooked, didn't want the bad press if we failed spectacularly, as Barry apparently put it, so they manufactured the double booking. A cold fury settled over me. Subtle family interference? This was sabotage, plain and simple, fueled by gossip and ill wishing, likely originating from Aunt Haley's concerns, and amplified by a grasping relative. They were actively trying to derail this. That that toad, I sputtered. Exactly, Livia said. But here's the kicker. While I was digging, I also put out feelers for new caterers. And guess who had an unexpected last minute cancellation for the 15th? She paused for the dramatic effect, a slow smile spreading across her face. Who? I asked, almost afraid to hope. Le Papillon Exclusive, Livia announced, naming the city's most sought after, most expensive, most exclusive culinary team. Apparently, some tech billionaire's wedding got postponed. They heard about our gala, the Women in Leadership angle, the mentorship program, Elizabeth Wagner speaking, and they loved it. They're willing to step in at a surprisingly reasonable rate considering their usual prices because they believe in the cause. I was stunned. Le Papillon Exclusif? Are you serious? Booked and confirmed an hour ago, Livia said, beaming. The contract is on its way. Their menu proposal looks divine. A slow, dangerous smile spread across my own face. Aunt Haley's cousin Barry, in his petty attempt to sabotage us, had inadvertently pushed us into an even more prestigious league. The sabotage had backfired spectacularly, upgrading the gala beyond my wildest dreams. They had no idea. They had absolutely no idea who they were dealing with now. The buzz around the gala intensified. Cityscape magazine, a glossy publication that usually featured established CEOs and society figures, reached out. They wanted to do a feature on the Turner Corp Women in Leadership Gala, focusing on its innovative approach to corporate philanthropy, and to my surprise, a profile on me as a rising leader to watch. The interview took place in my office, which suddenly felt very small under the gaze of the journalist and her photographer. I spoke about August's vision for the company, the incredible support I'd received, and my passion for the mentorship program. In this gala, the journalist, a sharp woman named Chloe, asked, it's also a celebration of your recent promotion to senior marketing director, isn't it? A rather unique way to mark such an achievement. It is, I confirmed, trying to sound modest but firm. The promotion was certainly a catalyst. It made me think about how I could use that platform to elevate others, to create opportunities. This initiative is about celebrating all female achievement, recognizing potential, and fostering growth. Chloe smiled. That's a great angle, Harper. Very inspiring. The article, when it went online a few days later, was flattering. It featured a surprisingly good photo of me, looking poised and professional, and highlighted the mentorship program. And yes, it explicitly mentioned my promotion as the celebratory anchor for the entire event. Aunt Haley, whose internet skills apparently extended to setting up Google alerts for anything remotely scandalous or noteworthy involving family, forwarded the link to Mom within an hour of it being published. The subject line of her email, Mom later relayed, was just a series of increasingly agitated question marks. Mom's call came shortly thereafter. Her voice was tight, stretched thin like overused elastic. Harper, she began, no darling this time. Haley sent me an article. From Cityscape magazine. Oh yes, I said, feigning mild surprise. The piece on the gala. It came out well, didn't it? It says this gala is also celebrating your promotion, Mom said, each word carefully enunciated. I thought you postponed that. For Bella. This is a company initiative, Mom, I stated calmly, picking a stray piece of lint off my blazer. It's a Turner Corp. Event celebrating leadership and success. That includes my recent success, yes. August felt it was an appropriate way to launch the program. There was a strained silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing a little too quickly. But, All those important people? Elizabeth Wagner? It seems very elaborate for just a work project. It is elaborate, Mom, and it is important. Before she could formulate another bewildered question, Bella grabbed the phone. Her voice was a high pitched whine. Harper, Mom just told me about your work party. It sounds really big, but you know my special certificate dinner is next Friday, right? You didn't forget, did you? No, Bella, I didn't forget your dinner. Good, she chirped, completely missing the undercurrent of tension. Because I was thinking, if your work thing is on the same night, you can just come to my dinner after it's over, right? It won't go too late, will it? My dinner, I mean. We can save you some cake. The sheer, unadulterated self absorption was almost breathtaking. Bella, I said, trying to keep the exasperation out of my voice, the gala is a major event. I'm chairing it. I'll be there from start to finish. Oh, she said, a note of petulance creeping in. Well, try not to be too late for mine, okay? It's really important to me. She handed the phone back to Mom, who was still audibly processing. Harper, Mom said, her voice regaining a sliver of its usual manipulative softness. Are you sure about this? All this fuss? For a promotion? It's more than just a promotion, Mom, I said. It's about what comes next. The conversation ended soon after, leaving a residue of unease. They were confused, definitely, but the full picture hadn't quite clicked into place for them yet. They were still trying to fit my gala into their familiar narrative, the one where my achievements were minor, easily overshadowed, and ultimately secondary to Bella's delicate sensibilities. Later that evening, my phone rang again. Caller ID. Dad, a rare occurrence. He usually let Mom do the talking, especially when it came to anything remotely emotional or confrontational. Harper? His voice was hesitant, a little gruff. Hi, Dad. Your mother, she's a bit upset about this gala thing. He paused. She feels, well, she feels a bit left out, like she doesn't understand what's going on. I've tried to explain, Dad. It's a corporate event I'm leading. Right, corporate. Another pause. But this article, Cityscape, it makes it sound like a very big deal. For you, I mean. Is this party, I mean, gala, is it really that important? I took a breath. This was it. A chance to be clear, unambiguous. It's the biggest deal of my career so far, Dad, I said, my voice steady and clear. It's something I've built, something I'm incredibly proud of. Perhaps you'll see. The line was quiet for a long moment. I could hear the faint hum of the television in their living room. Then, without another word, he hung up. The silence he left behind was heavy, filled with unspoken things. But for the first time, I felt a flicker of something other than frustration. Maybe, just maybe, a tiny crack was appearing in their wall of willful ignorance. The week of the gala arrived in a whirlwind of last-minute logistics and exhilarating stress. Florists, lighting technicians, security details. My days were a carefully orchestrated chaos. Livia was a rock handling crises with a calm efficiency that I envied. My apartment looked like a command center covered in seating charts, vendor contracts, and timelines. On Wednesday, I had my final fitting for the gown. Livia had found it, a stunning, deep sapphire creation that shimmered with every movement. When I saw myself in the salon's three-way mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked powerful, confident. Wow, Livia breathed, her eyes wide. Harper, you look incredible, like you're about to accept an Oscar, not just launch a mentorship program. It feels a bit like that, I admitted, a genuine smile finally breaking through the stress. The calm before the storm, however, was short-lived. Mom chose that evening to launch her full-scale guilt trip offensive. Harper, I really need to talk to you about Bella's dinner, she began, her voice oozing with maternal concern. She's going to be absolutely devastated if her own sister isn't there to celebrate her little achievement, especially after you agreed to postpone your own party for her. She's picked out a special tablecloth and everything. Mom, I said, trying to keep my patience from fraying completely. We've been over this. The gala is on Friday night. I am chairing the event. I have to be there. But this work event, she pressed, it can't be that important, can it? Surely you can slip away for an hour or two? For Bella? She's so sensitive, you know. This will crush her. But it is that important, Mom. I said, my voice firmer than I intended. It's crucial. Hundreds of people are attending. Elizabeth Wagner is speaking. I am giving a speech. There is no slipping away. A heavy sigh crackled through the phone. I just don't understand why your work has to take precedence over your family, Harper, over your sister's happiness. My work is important, Mom, and this gala is important. I'm sorry if that's difficult for you to understand, but it's the reality. I ended the call before she could launch into another round of emotional blackmail. The day before the gala, Thursday, the local Channel 5 News ran a preview segment on their evening broadcast. Livia had arranged it, a smart PR move. They called the Turner Corp. Women in Leadership Gala, one of the season's most anticipated philanthropic events. The segment featured sweeping shots of the grand ballroom at the Astoria, crews bustling about, transforming it into a glittering wonderland of flowers and uplighting. And then, there I was. A brief clip, maybe 10 seconds long, of me conferring with the event manager, a clipboard in hand, looking surprisingly poised and in command. I was wearing a sharp black pantsuit, my hair pulled back. The voiceover was smooth and professional. The gala, spearheaded by Turner Corp's newly promoted Senior Marketing Director Harper, also celebrates her recent advancement and her vision for the new Ascent Mentorship program designed to empower women in the workforce. My phone buzzed almost immediately. It was Livia. "Did you see it? You looked amazing. Total boss lady." "I saw it," I said, a strange mixture of pride and trepidation swirling within me. "It was very well done." The real fallout, however, came about an hour later. Aunt Haley, who apparently consumed local news with the same fervor she applied to family gossip, must have seen it, and she must have immediately called Mom. Because my phone rang again, and this time it was Mom, but her voice was completely different. It wasn't confused or manipulative. It was high-pitched, trembling, and laced with a dawning, horrified understanding. "Harper," she choked out. "Harper, Haley just called me. She saw you. On the news. Channel 5. "Yes, Mom. They did a preview of the gala." But they said Haley said it looked like a movie premiere. The ballroom, the lights, and they said it was for your promotion. They said your name, that you were in charge, that this whole thing was because of you." The carefully constructed dam of their denial had finally burst. The full scale, the undeniable public nature, the personal triumph of the event. It was all crashing down on them. "Yes, Mom," I said quietly. "That's what I've been trying to tell you." There was a strangled sob on the other end. "Harper Elizabeth, what have you done? Is this your revenge because we asked you to postpone that little party?" I paused, the word revenge hanging in the air. It wasn't the word I would have chosen, but perhaps in a way from their perspective it was. "It's my celebration, Mom," I said, my voice calm, steady, and devoid of apology. "The one I earned. The one I built. Perhaps you, Dad, and Bella should all tune into Channel 5 tomorrow night around 8 p.m. They're doing a live segment from the gala. You might find it illuminating." I didn't wait for a response. I pressed end call before she could utter another word, leaving her to grapple with the reality of what I had indeed done. The quiet click of the disconnection felt like a door closing on an old, suffocating room. The grand ballroom at the Astoria was a vision. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden glow over hundreds of elegantly dressed guests. The murmur of conversation and clinking glasses filled the air, a symphony of anticipation. Livia, looking radiant in a crimson dress, gave me a thumbs up from across the room. August beamed, shaking hands with the city mayor. Le Papillon Exclusif's creations were being whisked around on silver trays, each a miniature work of art. It was, in a word, breathtaking. And it was mine. Elizabeth Wagner, a figure of quiet power and immense grace, delivered a keynote speech that was both deeply personal and universally inspiring. She spoke of challenges, of resilience, of the imperative to lift others as we climb. Then she turned towards me, her smile genuine. "And now," she announced, her voice resonating through the ballroom, "it gives me immense pleasure to introduce the driving force behind this incredible evening. A woman whose vision and dedication have made this gala a reality, and whose own recent achievements we are also here to celebrate. Please welcome Turner Corp's Senior Marketing Director and the founder of the Ascent Mentorship Program, Harper." The spotlight found me. For a heart-stopping moment, the sheer number of faces looking up at me was overwhelming. Then I took a breath, smoothed down my sapphire gown, and walked towards the podium. "Thank you, Elizabeth," I began, my voice surprisingly steady as it carried through the speakers. "Thank you all for being here tonight." I spoke about my journey, not dwelling on the slights, but on the drive they had inadvertently fueled. I spoke about the hurdles women face, the subtle and not so subtle ways ambition can be stifled. I talked about the importance of recognizing one's own worth even when others try to diminish it. Sometimes, I said, my gaze sweeping across the room, postponed moments, moments where you're asked to shrink or step aside, can become the most powerful opportunities. Opportunities to redefine success on your own terms, to build something bigger, something that not only celebrates your own achievements, but also creates pathways for others. Then, with a surge of pride, I officially launched the Harper Ascent Mentorship Program. I thanked August and Turner Corp. For their unwavering belief in me and in the initiative. The applause was deafening, a wave of warmth and validation that washed over me. People were on their feet, a standing ovation. Across town, in my parents' slightly too small living room, the atmosphere was considerably less celebratory. Bella's certificate of completion for the colorful world of digital collages lay on the coffee table, next to a plate of rapidly cooling mini quiches. Aunt Haley was there, perched on the edge of the sofa, her lips pursed. A couple of Mom's reluctant bridge club friends roped in for Bella's big night, made polite, strained conversation. Dad stared blankly at the wall. Bella, dressed in one of her beige cardigans, kept glancing towards the door, a frown etching itself onto her face. "Harper's really late," she muttered to Mom. "She promised she'd try." Mom just patted her hand absently, her eyes darting nervously toward the television. Someone, probably Dad, trying to escape the oppressive awkwardness, had idly flicked it on to Channel 5 earlier. The local news was on, muted. Suddenly, the news anchor's voice, previously a low hum, cut through the room's strained quiet. "We're live now at the Astoria, at the inaugural Turner Corp. Women in Leadership Gala, one of the city's most talked about events." On the screen, there I was, standing at the podium, bathed in golden light, accepting the thunderous applause. The camera panned across the glittering crowd, the mayor, business leaders, Elizabeth Wagner smiling proudly. It lingered on the elegant decor, the sheer scale of the event. A stunning success by all accounts, the anchor gushed, raising significant funds for the newly established Harper Ascent Mentorship Program. And what a night for Harper herself, the senior marketing director who spearheaded this incredible initiative, also celebrating her recent promotion in spectacular fashion. Truly a meteoric rise for this young leader. Silence descended in the Turner living room, a thick, suffocating silence. Bella's certificate, with its clip art flowers, looked utterly insignificant. Mom's face was ashen. Her hand, which had been patting Bella's, froze midair. Dad stared at the screen, his mouth slightly agape, speechless. Aunt Haley's jaw had literally dropped. Her carefully constructed expression of familial superiority crumbled. Bella's eyes, wide and disbelieving, welled up, not with the easily summoned tears of self-pity this time, but with something raw, angry, and deeply humiliated. The spotlight she had always craved, the attention she felt was her birthright, was shining brightly elsewhere on a stage far grander than she could have ever imagined, and it was fixed squarely on her older sister. The news report concluded with the anchor saying, "And the newly established Harper Ascent Mentorship Program has already received substantial pledges tonight, promising to change the lives of many aspiring women. A truly inspiring evening." A choked sob escaped Bella. She jumped up, knocking over a glass of fruit punch that spread like a bloodstain on the beige carpet, and stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. Nancy looked utterly, completely defeated. All the fight, all the manipulation had drained out of her. Dad slowly shook his head, a complex, unreadable emotion flickering across his face, part shame, part bewilderment, and perhaps, just perhaps, a dawning, reluctant respect. The little party they'd so casually dismissed had become a citywide triumph, and they hadn't even been invited. The days following the gala were a blur of positive energy. My phone didn't stop ringing. Congratulations from colleagues, messages from women I'd never met who were inspired by the mentorship program, even a few tentative partnership offers from other companies wanting to support the initiative. Media outlets wanted follow-up interviews. August was ecstatic, already talking about making the gala an annual flagship event for Turner Corp. The call from my parents came 2 days later. I let it go to voicemail the first few times, needing a little more space, a little more time to bask in the glow of my success without their inevitable attempts to reframe it, or worse, inject their brand of belated, self-serving understanding. When I finally picked up, Mom's voice was small, hesitant. "Harper? It's Mom." "Hi, Mom. We we saw you on the news. The gala." A pause. "It was quite something." "Yes, it was," I agreed, offering nothing more. "We didn't realize," she said, the words barely a whisper. "We just didn't realize it was going to be like that." There was a shuffling sound, and then Dad's voice, surprisingly clear, came on the line. "Harper, your mother is trying to say, well, we're proud of you. We really are. We should have we should have handled things differently. About your party. About a lot of things." It wasn't a full apology, not really. But from Dad, it was monumental. "Thank you, Dad," I said, and I meant it. That means something. Bella predictably gave me the silent treatment. Livia, who still had occasional, unavoidable contact with my family through distant mutual acquaintances, reported that Bella was sulking spectacularly. The sting of being so thoroughly, so publicly upstaged was clearly too raw for her to process. Her certificate for digital collages remained uncelebrated, a forgotten relic of a time when her minor whims dictated our family's emotional landscape. My relationship with my family had shifted irrevocably. The old dynamic, the one where I was the perpetually understanding, endlessly accommodating supporting act to Bella's starring role, was shattered. In its place was a new cautious respect from my parents, but also a palpable distance. It wasn't comfortable yet. The pieces of our broken normal hadn't settled into a new, easy shape. Maybe they never would. Aunt Haley, I heard through the grapevine, was suddenly very quiet on the subject of my career. She even, according to Livia's source, mumbled something at her bridge club about me being a very determined young woman. High praise indeed. The revenge, if I could even call it that anymore, had been sweet. Not in a bitter, malicious way, but in its powerful, undeniable affirmation of my worth. It wasn't just about showing them, it was about showing myself what I was capable of building when I stopped letting their small expectations define my limits. It was about realizing that their inability to see my light didn't mean I shouldn't shine. The Harper Ascent mentorship program took off with a momentum that astonished even me. Young women from all walks of life applied, eager for guidance, for a supportive network, for a chance to be seen and heard. My passion project became a thriving reality, consuming my spare hours in the best possible way. A few weeks after the gala, I was having coffee with Maya, one of the first mentees in the program. She was a bright, ambitious recent graduate, full of ideas but unsure how to navigate the corporate world. We were laughing about a particularly awkward networking experience she'd had. "It's just, sometimes it feels like you have to shrink yourself to fit in," Maya said, stirring her latte. "Or," I countered, leaning forward, "you can choose to build a bigger room, one where you and others like you have all the space you need to grow." She looked at me, a slow smile spreading across her face. "I like that. A bigger room." "Me too," I said, my gaze drifting out the coffee shop window. The city bustled, full of challenges and opportunities. The echoes of the gala's applause still resonated, a quiet hum beneath the surface of my days. The family drama, once so consuming, felt like a receding shadow, a painful but necessary lesson learned, a difficult battle decisively won. This was it. This was the real victory. Not the stunned faces in my parents' living room, but this connection, this shared ambition, this act of lifting someone else up. In building my lighthouse, I hadn't just illuminated my own path. I was helping to light the way for others, and that, I realized with a clarity that felt like sunshine, was the best, most satisfying revenge of all.